Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
A secret too heavy to bear. Whispers too dangerous to be true. As Harvey stood frozen at the resort pool, the sight before him was undeniable. His wife Camille, laughing intimately with his half-brother Clyde, their connection too close for comfort. His heart sank further when his son innocently exclaimed, "Uncle Clyde's been here all week!" A flicker of guilt crossed Camille's face as she waved, pretending all was normal. But beneath the sunlit facade, shadows loomed. Betrayal, manipulation, and a conspiracy more chilling than Harvey could imagine. The truth would unravel at a cost no one was ready to pay. Before we dive into the full story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying this tale, don't forget to subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss any of our upcoming stories. Chapter 1. The Florida sun blazed high and merciless over Key Largo, transforming every surface into a radiant mirror of heat. Harvey Dawson pressed the brake pedal of his black SUV, rolling into the curved driveway of the illustrious Ocean Palms Resort. He'd come straight from a high-pressure meeting in Miami, blueprints, deadlines, contractors demanding answers, but all that was supposed to melt away the moment he saw his wife, Camille, and their 2 children splashing happily in the sun. That was the plan, anyway. He turned off the engine, let out a ragged sigh, and glanced at his phone. No new messages. He'd texted Camille hours ago, telling her to expect him by early afternoon. Yet she hadn't responded, which was unusual. She normally showered him with quick emojis, photos, random sweet nothings. Over the past month or 2, that loving habit had dried up like a Florida creek in drought. Still, he forced himself to stay calm. Maybe she was busy with the kids, or just enjoying the tropical breeze without phone distractions. It could happen. Didn't he always complain she was glued to her phone? He gave a faint, humorless chuckle, then shoved the thought away and stepped out into the humid air. The resort's manicured lawns and swaying palm trees offered a postcard-perfect background. If only his stomach didn't churn with that uneasy sense that all was not well. A chipper bellhop hurried over, offering to take Harvey's small duffel bag. "No thanks," Harvey said, forcing a polite smile. He had bigger concerns than a bag. He wanted to find Camille, greet the kids, and let the tension of the day evaporate. He passed through the lobby, cool marble floors, plush chairs, wealthy vacationers sipping cocktails at midday, and spotted a cluster of familiar faces. Rose, his mother, was perched at a lounge table wearing an oversized sun hat and talking to a friend. Near her sat his father, Lloyd, who offered Harvey a brief, somewhat uneasy wave. Odd. Lloyd was usually eager to catch up with him, talk business or family matters. Today, Lloyd just looked burdened, possibly tired from the trip. Still scanning for Camille or the kids, Harvey's gaze settled on a tall figure near the bar, laughing loudly with a couple of tanned resort guests. Clyde. Harvey's half-brother, older by nearly 10 years, was typically the life of any party. A wide grin, intense green eyes, an easy way of commanding attention. Yet seeing him here triggered a subtle ripple of alarm in Harvey. Clyde was supposed to arrive next week, or so Harvey had believed. Why was he already at the resort? "Harvey!" Rose called out, interrupting his thoughts. She walked toward him with open arms, giving him a brief hug, her perfume thick and sweet. "We wondered when you'd get here. Camille's out by the pool with the children, I believe." Her smile was pleasant on the surface, but Harvey detected something guarded in her eyes. "Thanks, Mom." He tried to keep his tone even. "I'll head that way." He flicked a glance at Clyde, who lifted his glass in a mocking toast. "Baby brother!" he drawled, voice dripping with a lazy confidence. "How's the big architect doing?" "Busy," Harvey replied tersely. "Big projects," Clyde smirked. "All that building. Must be exhausting." It felt like a jab, but Harvey refused to bite. "I'll see you around." With that, he strode through the lobby doors toward the pool terrace, heart thudding in his chest. Outside, the midday sun glinted off turquoise water. Rows of lounge chairs fanned out around the resort pool, guests in bright swimsuits sipping iced drinks. Children shrieked with laughter in the shallow end. Harvey swept his gaze over the scene, searching for a familiar face. Then he spotted Camille. She stood in waist-deep water, wearing a sleek black swimsuit and sunglasses perched atop her dark hair. She looked stunning, long legs, toned arms, a figure that always drew envious glances. But instead of looking for Harvey or minding their kids, she was leaning toward Clyde, who was in the pool next to her, water shimmering around his chest. He had one arm slung casually over the pool's edge, dangerously close to Camille's shoulder. His wide grin was all confidence, eyes glittering with some private joke. Harvey froze, an icy spike of something sharp slamming into his gut. A voice inside him said, "Calm down. Maybe it's nothing." But as he watched, he noticed how Camille's face lit up at whatever Clyde was whispering. She touched Clyde's arm briefly. Her expression, was that affection? Amusement? Something more intimate? Their two kids splashed just a few feet away, calling out, "Mommy, Uncle Clyde, watch this!" But Camille and Clyde seemed almost oblivious, locked in quiet conversation. Harvey took a breath, forcing himself to approach calmly. As he neared the pool, he expected Camille to notice him and break away. But she didn't. Instead, it was his 6-year-old son, Jacob, who spotted him first and shouted, "Daddy!" At the sound of the child's voice, Camille jolted, turned, and spotted Harvey at the pool's edge. A flicker of something guilt, surprise, passed over her face. Then she plastered on a bright smile, waving. "Harvey, hi, we didn't think you'd be here until evening." "Got done early." Harvey set his bag on a lounge chair and knelt to hug Jacob, who clung to him with wet little arms. "Hey, buddy. Missed you." "Missed you too, Dad." Jacob's eyes shone. "Uncle Clyde got here early, took us to the beach. Did you know that? Yesterday and the day before. We got ice cream." Harvey's jaw tightened, but he ruffled his son's hair affectionately, glancing up at Camille. "The day before," he echoed. "I thought Clyde was coming next week." Camille let out a soft laugh that sounded forced. "There was a change of plans, I guess." She shrugged. "He surprised us. Turned up early. It's been fun, right?" Clyde floated closer, offering Harvey a lazy grin. "What can I say? When the ocean calls, I answer. Figured I'd spend some time with my dear little nephew and niece. They love me, almost as much as they love you, baby brother." He flashed a bright, mocking smile. Harvey's heart pounded. Baby brother. He loathed that phrase. Clyde used it like a weapon, reminding him who was older, who always seemed to overshadow him in the family dynamic. Fighting a surge of anger, Harvey just nodded curtly. "Sure. Good to see you, I guess." Camille swam over to the pool steps, emerging gracefully and grabbing a towel. "Let me dry off," she said, not meeting Harvey's gaze. "Then we can catch up, okay?" Harvey watched her walk away, water dripping down her legs, mind awash with suspicion. Was I imagining that closeness? Could it just be friendly banter? But the memory of how they were leaning in, the hush in their conversation, the way Clyde's arm nearly grazed hers, none of that felt innocent. Jacob tugged his hand. "Dad, can we swim more later?" Harvey mustered a smile. "Of course." Inside, though, tension coiled. He had to play this carefully, not alert them that he was on to something. Or maybe he should confront Camille right now. No. He swallowed, forcibly calm. He needed more than a fleeting suspicion. That evening, the family gathered for dinner in the resort's upscale restaurant. Harvey found himself seated at a round table with Rose, Lloyd, Clyde, Camille, and the kids. The conversation was superficial. Chatter about the resort amenities, upcoming family gatherings, mild jokes. But Harvey noticed something in Camille's body language. She hardly ever looked at him. Instead, she kept glancing across the table at Clyde. Whenever their eyes met, it was like an electric current. Harvey tried to catch Lloyd's gaze, but his father mostly stared at his plate, tension evident in his posture. Rose seemed overly cheerful, steering the conversation away from any personal topics. Meanwhile, Clyde laughed with an easy charm, telling stories about his latest business ventures. He was some sort of financial consultant, though Harvey knew details were murky. Clyde's ventures often skirted ethical lines. That had caused friction before, but now it felt overshadowed by something bigger. Halfway through the meal, Harvey's daughter Emily, a bright 4-year-old, chirped, "Uncle Clyde said he's staying in the suite next to ours. He said we can watch cartoons tomorrow if Daddy's busy working." Something flared in Harvey's chest. "The suite next to ours? Why?" He cast a sidelong glance at Camille, but she was busy pretending to help Emily with her napkin. Clyde winked at Harvey, raising his wine glass. "Gotta keep the kiddos entertained, right?" Harvey forced a small smile. "Right." As the meal wrapped up, the kids grew restless. Rose offered to take them for an evening stroll, giving Harvey and Camille a chance to talk. But the moment the kids were gone, Clyde remained seated, lingering with a smug grin. Camille offered no protest. That left Harvey simmering with frustration. Finally, Clyde excused himself, claiming he needed a phone call. Camille got up as well, muttering something about going to the restroom. Harvey sat alone, feeling foolish, a bitter taste in his mouth. Then he realized Lloyd was still at the table, looking pale. "You see it, don't you?" Lloyd said quietly, his voice thick with sadness. "See what?" Harvey asked, though he suspected the answer. Lloyd exhaled. "Clyde and Camille? There's something off. Your mother tries to act like everything's fine, but I can't shake the feeling I'm sorry, son." Harvey's pulse pounded. "Why are you apologizing?" Lloyd's gaze flickered with guilt. "I should have spoken up sooner. But it's complicated. The family dynamic, your mother's role, all of it. Just be careful." Before Harvey could press for details, Lloyd stood abruptly, clearing his throat. "I'll take a walk. Need some air." Then he was gone, leaving Harvey more uneasy than ever. Late that night, after tucking the kids into bed in their resort suite, Harvey waited for Camille to join him. He expected some intimacy or at least a conversation about the day, but she took an exceptionally long time checking something in the hallway. He thought about stepping out to see what she was doing. Before he could, she slipped back in, phone clutched tight in her hand, face flustered. "Everything okay?" Harvey asked, trying to sound casual. "You disappeared for quite a while." "Just had a call," she replied, not meeting his gaze. "From a friend about real estate stuff." She forced a smile. "Nothing big." The tension in the air was palpable. Harvey watched her set her phone on the nightstand, face down. Camille normally plugged it in, face up, complaining about battery life. He tried not to jump to conclusions, but every alarm bell in his brain was ringing. He took a tentative step closer. "It's good to see you," he said softly, wanting to gauge her reaction. He reached out to brush her arm, but she barely responded, as if pulling away without being obvious. "We're both tired," she said, sliding into bed. "Travel, kids, maybe we can talk tomorrow, okay?" Harvey hesitated. "Sure." He flicked off the light, sinking onto his side of the bed, mind spinning. In the darkness, the gulf between them felt enormous. Sleep remained elusive as suspicion and heartbreak waged war in his thoughts. The next morning, Harvey woke to find Camille already dressed in a sundress, rummaging in her purse as if preparing to leave. The kids were with Rose and Lloyd somewhere, presumably for breakfast. Camille offered a fleeting smile. "We're heading out to the beach. You want to join?" He studied her face. "Sure, I can—" She hesitated. "Actually, Clyde's taking them to do some water sports. If you're busy, no worries." A spike of anger flared. "You want me to come or you don't?" She seemed flustered. Clyde planned it. I thought you might want to relax. You've been stressed with work." She grabbed her beach bag and slipped out with a rushed, "See you later," before he could press further. Harvey stood there, heart racing. "She's literally avoiding me to spend the day with Clyde." He marched to the balcony, watching from above as Camille and Clyde rendezvoused near the resort entrance with the kids. Clyde ruffled Jacob's hair, loaded towels and gear into an SUV, acting like the fun parent while Harvey was left behind. The sheer gall of it made Harvey's fists clench, but he swallowed the urge to storm down and cause a scene. Something about Lloyd's warning and Rose's odd behavior told him this was bigger than a petty confrontation. He needed clarity, evidence, a plan. So he forced himself to remain calm, deciding to step away from the resort for a bit. Clear his head, possibly head to one of his construction sites. By midday, Harvey found himself aimlessly driving the coastal highway, windows down, warm salt air pouring in. He couldn't shake the memory of how Clyde teased him last night, how Camille evaded all direct conversation. The kids, so innocent, seemed to adore Uncle Clyde, they not realizing the tension beneath. His phone buzzed. Camille, the caller ID read. He almost let it go to voicemail but decided to answer. "Yeah?" "Hey," Camille's voice said, faint wind noise behind her. "We're on a boat ride with Clyde. The kids are having a blast. Just checking you're okay." Harvey stifled a bitter laugh. "Sure, I'm peachy. Having the time of my life." She paused. "Harvey, don't be like that. You're the one who didn't join us." "You gave me about 5 seconds notice, Camille," he said, anger creeping into his tone. "Anyway, enjoy. I'll see you later." He hung up before she could respond. The phone rang again this time. It was his father, Lloyd. Harvey considered ignoring it, but something about his father's quiet concern from last night pushed him to answer. "Harvey," Lloyd's weary voice came over the line. "We need to talk. Can you meet me somewhere private?" Harvey's pulse quickened. "I'm heading up the coast. Name a spot." There was a beat of hesitation. "How about that old diner off Highway 1 near the orchard you worked on last year? It's quiet, out of the way." "Fine, I'll be there in an hour." The diner was a humble place with worn vinyl booths and a flickering neon sign that read, "Frankie's Eats." Harvey parked, took a moment to steel his nerves, then headed inside. Lloyd was already there, hunched over a cup of coffee, eyes bloodshot. Harvey slid into the booth. "Dad." Lloyd looked up, offering a wan, apologetic smile. "Thank you for meeting me." A waitress approached, but Harvey waved her off politely. "We need a minute, please." Once alone, Lloyd let out a shaky breath. "Son, I don't know how to say this. I'm worried about you, about the family. There's something rotten in this dynamic. There are secrets I wish I'd confronted years ago." Harvey clenched his jaw. This about Clyde and Camille? Because I'm not blind. Lloyd winced. Yes, that's part of it. But it goes deeper. I'm not sure how much your mother Rose has told you about Clyde's origins. Harvey stiffened. Clyde was older, from the time when Rose traveled overseas, or so the family story went. Lloyd had always treated Clyde as a son, but it was known that Clyde's biological father was some wealthy figure Rose had known. The subject was taboo. You're saying it matters now? Lloyd nodded, eyes glistening. I never knew the full truth. Rose always told me bits and pieces, but I suspect she might have orchestrated certain alliances. She's controlling Clyde in some way, or maybe vice versa, and they're roping Camille into it, possibly for financial gain or God knows. Harvey's stomach churned. What does that have to do with me? Everything, Lloyd said grimly. You're the legitimate son, the successful architect with real assets. If they can keep you docile, they can siphon your resources, maybe sabotage your business. I don't know all the details, but I sense a conspiracy. Harvey exhaled shakily. So, you think Camille and Clyde are hooking up? And Rose is okay with that? Lloyd buried his face in his hands briefly. I'm afraid so. She's convinced Clyde is the rightful heir to everything. She's always belittled your achievements, even if she didn't say it openly. Your mother believes that Clyde's lineage, that his real father was more powerful, more important. I'm sorry, son. Anger and heartbreak warred in Harvey's chest. You suspect? Do you have proof? Lloyd shook his head. Not concrete, just overheard conversations, found suspicious receipts, phone calls. I confronted Rose, but she stonewalled me. I wanted to tell you, but... Harvey slammed a fist on the table, making nearby diners glance over. Damn it, Dad! This is insane! We're talking about my wife, my half-brother, my mother, all betraying me. Stay calm. Lloyd reached out, gripping Harvey's forearm. Let me help. I can gather more. Rose doesn't suspect I'd actively go against her. We can expose them, but be careful. They're dangerous. Harvey's breathing was ragged. Dangerous how? Lloyd's gaze flickered. You have no idea what Rose is capable of. Or Clyde. If cornered, they might lash out violently. They have resources, connections I can't fully detail. Just promise me you'll keep your eyes open. Harvey swallowed. All right, but I won't sit idle. Of course not, Lloyd murmured. We'll plan something, get evidence, then we confront them together. Harvey nodded, grim. Fine. They parted, tension thick. Lloyd left first, muttering something about a safety deposit box he needed to check. Harvey stared at his father's retreating form, feeling a maelstrom of fury, sorrow, and grim determination. Returning to the resort that evening, Harvey tried to mask his turmoil. He found Camille in the suite, fresh from a shower, the kids already asleep. She offered a tentative smile. Hey, you okay? We missed you at the beach. He forced a casual tone. I had errands. Important calls. She wrapped a towel around her damp hair. Everything's fine at work? He shrugged. Sure. Then he turned away, heading to the balcony. He sensed her hesitation behind him, but didn't care to reassure her. Let her wonder. Outside, the night sky glistened with stars. The ocean breeze carried hints of salt and secrecy. He recalled Lloyd's words about a bigger conspiracy. Could Rose truly condone an affair between Clyde and my wife? For money? For some twisted sense of superiority? It boggled his mind. Yet the puzzle pieces Camille's distant behavior, Clyde's smug presence, Rose's perpetual condescension started to align. His phone buzzed with a message from Lloyd. I found old documents. We'll show you soon. Lay low. Lay low. The phrase bristled with warnings of danger. He slid the phone into his pocket, jaw set. No, I won't lay low. He'd gather evidence, yes. But he refused to let them walk all over him. They'd pay for this betrayal. The following day took a dark turn. Harvey awoke to frantic knocking on the suite door. He opened it to find Rose, her face twisted in a carefully staged expression of concern. "We need to talk," she hissed, stepping inside uninvited. Camille hovered by the kitchenette, looking uncertain. Rose shot her a glare, silently telling her to step away. Then Rose turned back to Harvey with a tight smile. "You've been avoiding us, dear. Clyde mentioned you seemed upset. Anything you want to share?" Harvey let out a mirthless laugh. "Upset? Why would I be upset? My wife's ignoring me, my half-brother's overshadowing me at every turn. You all go behind my back, should I be thrilled?" Rose's eyes flickered. "You're being dramatic, Harvey. We're a family. Clyde adores your children. Camille is just enjoying her vacation. You're the one storming around like a wounded animal." He clenched his fists. "Maybe because something's not right. And I'll find out what it is." Rose's smile vanished, replaced by a cold, steely edge. "Be careful with your accusations. Clyde has resources you can't imagine. You don't want to start a fight you'll regret." A wave of anger coursed through Harvey. "Is that a threat, Mother?" She leaned in, voice low. "It's a caution, child. Don't let your imagination ruin the family bond we have. Focus on your business. Keep providing for Camille and the kids. Leave Clyde's affairs alone." Harvey's jaw tightened. "She wants me to be a passive cash cow while Clyde and Camille cavort? Over my dead body. Thanks for the advice," he said icily. "Now get out." Rose glared, then turned and swept from the suite, leaving behind a heavy, poisonous atmosphere. Camille peeked around the corner. "Harvey, what was that about?" He shot her a withering look. "Ask your lover. I'm sure you both know." She paled, lips parted. "You're being paranoid." He cut her off, voice trembling with rage. "I've had enough lies. Don't push me." That night, Harvey couldn't stand another moment in that resort. He packed a quick bag, left a curt note for Camille stating he needed to check on a construction site in Gainesville. Then he drove away under the cloak of darkness, heart pounding, mind swirling with a single burning question. How do I prove it? He thought of Lloyd's promise to gather documents, the old secrets about Clyde's father, Rose's manipulations. He considered calling an attorney friend or maybe a private investigator. He needed solid proof that Camille was cheating with Clyde, that Rose was complicit, that there was a grander scheme at play. He needed to protect himself, his children, his assets, and possibly bring them all to justice. As he sped north, the shadows of palm trees flicked across the road under the moonlight. His phone buzzed with repeated calls from Camille and Rose, which he ignored. Let them squirm. Let them wonder if he was done being the clueless husband. By the time he reached a lonely stretch of highway, the fury in his chest solidified into a vow. They want a fight? I'll give them one. He wouldn't be a victim. He'd gather evidence, build a strategy, and strike them where it hurt the most: reputation, finances, and eventually criminal charges if that's what it took. The heartbreak was profound, but his determination to fight back was stronger. Chapter 2. The Gainesville construction site was little more than a patch of dusty ground, scattered with steel beams, concrete blocks, and half-finished walls. A mobile office, a temporary trailer, served as Harvey's makeshift command center on the project. He arrived close to midnight, the site illuminated only by a few security lights. Stepping out of his SUV, he inhaled the warm night air laced with the scent of fresh concrete and earth. This spot should have felt like an expansion of his dreams. He was building a new commercial complex here, a testament to his architectural vision. But all he could think about was the swirling betrayal at home, or rather, back at that Key Largo resort. He trudged to the mobile office, punched in a security code, and swung the door open. Inside, the tiny space smelled faintly of stale coffee and old blueprints. He flicked on a fluorescent light and sank heavily into the swivel chair behind a folding desk. His phone displayed a dozen missed calls. Camille, Clyde, even Rose. Also one from his father, Lloyd. The tension in his chest tightened at the thought of his father out there, potentially gathering dangerous evidence against Rose and Clyde. Harvey recalled Lloyd's cryptic admission that Rose had always favored Clyde, someone else's child, and had big plans to overshadow Harvey. He set the phone aside, leaning his elbows on the desk. I need a plan, he thought. Something bigger than just confronting them. He wanted to expose Clyde and Camille, but he also sensed a deeper conspiracy. If Rose truly was orchestrating finances, forging alliances, who knew how far this rabbit hole went? A beep signaled a new voicemail. Checking the screen, he saw it was from Alexandra Clyde's estranged wife. He barely knew her, but something in his gut said picking up that thread might help. With measured curiosity, he tapped to listen. Alexandra's voice, taut with urgency. Harvey, this is Alexandra. I know it's late, but we need to talk. I suspect Clyde is up to something major, and it might involve you. Please call me back. He blinked, reeling. Alexandra? How does she fit in? She and Clyde had split months ago, apparently. Could she have insight into Clyde's shady dealings or even his relationship with Camille? Harvey pressed, "Call back," heart thumping. She answered on the second ring, sounding both anxious and relieved. Harvey, thank God you called. Yeah, he said quietly. What's this about? A brief pause. I've suspected for a while that Clyde's messing with someone else. I hired a private investigator who tracked him to Florida. He was definitely there early, like 2 days before your family arrived. The PI has some photos. I'm almost sure the woman is Camille, but the images aren't crystal clear. Harvey clenched the phone, fury rippling through him. So Clyde and Camille had been there, alone, days earlier. You have proof? Partial, Alexandra replied. That's why I wanted to talk. I also discovered odd receipts linking Clyde to your mother, Rose. Money transfers. Hush-hush stuff. I can't piece it all together alone. Thought you might want to collaborate? He let out a shaky breath. Yes, I do. Half an hour later, Harvey had arranged for Alexandra to drive up from her location 3 hours away to meet him at the Gainesville site the next day. He ended the call, a strange mix of relief and anger swirling inside him. He paced the tiny office, glancing at old architectural sketches pinned to the walls for the upcoming build. This was supposed to be a night to finalize some contractor proposals, but the personal crisis overshadowed everything. A text pinged. Lloyd. Son, I found more evidence. I'll show you soon. Keep your head down for now. Dad. Harvey typed back. Alexandra's coming here tomorrow. She has PI info. Let's coordinate. No immediate reply. He debated trying to sleep, but doubted rest would come easily. Instead, he rummaged in the small fridge for a bottled water, sat at the desk, and pulled up some digital files on his laptop paper trails for his finances. If Clyde and Rose were conspiring, maybe they'd tried to access his accounts or manipulate his business. Scrolling through transaction logs, he found nothing immediately suspicious. But that didn't mean they hadn't planned bigger moves. They want me docile, a clueless provider. The idea made him physically ill. He scowled, snapping the laptop closed. He decided to check the voice messages from Camille. After all, she was his wife, maybe she'd left some clue. Though it's probably a bunch of excuses. He tapped into voicemail. Camille's voice. Harvey, call me, please. I don't know why you left. Everyone's worried. A pause. Look, if this is about Clyde, you're overreacting. He's just being nice to the kids, that's all. Call me. He snorted, ending the message. Just being nice? Sure. He flopped onto a small couch in the corner, arms crossed behind his head, mind churning. Let them stew. He wouldn't race back to the resort in a blind rage. He'd gather facts, coordinate with Alexandra, talk to Lloyd, and then make his move methodical, thorough, unstoppable. The next morning, sunlight pierced the flimsy blinds of the mobile office. Harvey woke with a stiff neck, realized he'd dozed off for maybe 4 hours. Groaning, he splashed water on his face from the tiny sink. Stepping outside, he greeted a few of his construction workers who'd arrived early. They eyed him with polite curiosity, not expecting the boss to show up unannounced. He forced a cordial nod and retreated to a corner of the site, phone in hand, to check for Lloyd's response. None. He frowned. That's odd. Lloyd had sounded urgent. Perhaps he was busy verifying more documents or dealing with Rose. Around mid-morning, a sleek black sedan pulled onto the site, parking near the trailer. A striking brunette emerged Alexandra wearing a tailored blazer despite the Florida heat, her posture poised and confident. Harvey walked over, extending a tentative handshake. She returned the handshake, eyes scanning the dusty surroundings. Not your typical meeting spot, but I guess we both needed somewhere discreet. He offered a wry smile. Exactly. They stepped into the mobile office, and he offered her the only other chair. Once seated, she produced a slim manila folder from her purse. My PI gathered these, she said softly, sliding the folder across the desk. Harvey opened it. Inside were grainy photographs. Clyde at a hotel bar, sitting too close to a woman with dark hair that could easily be Camille. The timestamps indicated they were taken 2 days before the official family arrival date. Another shot showed Clyde leading the same woman into a private cabana near the beach. Alexandra sighed. It's not definitive. Could be someone who just resembles Camille, but the figure, the hair, the posture, it's very likely her. Harvey's stomach lurched. I'm sure it's her. We have a distinctive pattern of hair highlights. I'd recognize that shape anywhere. She nodded, face grim. I suspected as much. He set the photos aside, rubbing his temples. So you're sure Clyde's been sleeping around? Possibly multiple affairs? Alexandra leaned forward, crossing her arms. Yeah. Our marriage collapsed because of his constant lies, shady deals, and unfaithfulness. I left him officially 6 months ago, but the divorce process is still underway. He's dragging it out, probably to hide assets or something. Harvey exhaled. Are you aware of any connection with my mother? Lloyd hinted that Rose might be helping Clyde. Alexandra nodded. Yes, I found bank statements with large deposits from Rose to Clyde. The memo lines are cryptic stuff, like consulting fee, but it's obviously hush money. Possibly to keep Clyde loyal to her schemes. He tightened his jaw. Schemes. That's what Lloyd implied, too. Something about controlling me or my business. I can't wrap my head around why my own mother would prefer Clyde. He's not even my father's son. A flash of sympathy crossed Alexandra's face. I'm sorry you're dealing with this, it's messed up. But from what I know, Rose might see Clyde as more in line with her worldview. She's cunning, and so is he. They feed off each other. Harvey's fists clenched. You said your PI can do more because I need proof, not just of the affair, but if there's a conspiracy with my mother, too. Alexandra nodded. He can. The question is how far you want to go. This might cost time and money. Harvey scoffed. I'll spend whatever. I want them all exposed. I also want to protect my kids. Clyde's gotten uncomfortably close. She considered him. Kids' paternity, ever wonder about that? A chill shot through him. No, they look like me. My father thinks maybe Rose convinced Clyde the kids are his or something. But I can't believe that. She bit her lip, hesitating. If you're up for it, we can do a discreet DNA test. Might be wise to confirm. His heart hammered. The mere suggestion felt like a betrayal of his children. But given the depths of this plot, he couldn't dismiss it. All right, he said at last, voice raw. We'll do it, quietly. They spent the next hour hashing out details. Alexandra's PI, a man named Miller, would coordinate with a lab. Harvey would provide samples hair or toothbrush swabs from each child. He hated the idea of sneaking around, but the alternative was to live in doubt. Between the fling photos and the potential for a paternity twist, Harvey felt equal parts rage and heartbreak. He found himself confiding more in Alexandra than he'd ever have expected. She listened intently, occasionally sharing her experiences with Clyde's manipulations. "Clyde's smooth," she said. "He can charm you, make you believe he's on your side. Meanwhile, he's plotting 100 ways to benefit himself. In my marriage, he kept me in the dark about finances, used my signature on shady documents. I still don't know the extent of his fraud." Harvey grimaced. "I sensed something similar might be happening with me, only orchestrated by my mother, too." Alexandra laid a hand on his arm, an unexpected gesture of comfort. "We'll figure it out. You're not alone in this." He offered a tight, grateful smile. "Thanks." By midday, Alexandra left to arrange her PI's next steps, promising to keep Harvey updated. Alone again in the trailer, he phoned Lloyd. No answer. He tried again, got voicemail. Anxiety gnawed at him. Lloyd had been so insistent last night. Why go silent now? He typed a text. "Dad, call me ASAP. Alexandra and I have leads. Where are you?" No reply. He stared at the phone, dread creeping in. Could Rose or Clyde have discovered Lloyd's intentions? Possibly. Shaking off the worst scenarios, he forced himself to handle some site business, signing off on a lumber delivery, reviewing a contractor's invoice. But he was distracted, mind drifting to Lloyd's warnings about Rose's ruthlessness. When evening fell, Harvey locked up and decided to check into a nearby motel. He wanted to stay close to the site for the night. On the drive, his phone rang, Lloyd's name lit up. Relief flooded him, and he quickly answered. "Dad?" But the voice that spoke wasn't Lloyd's, it was a county sheriff. "Is this Harvey Dawson?" Harvey's pulse lurched. "Yes, that's me. I'm sorry to inform you there's been an accident involving Lloyd Dawson. We found this phone on him. Are you a relative?" The world spun. "Yes, I'm his son. Accident? Is he okay?" A grim pause. "He's deceased, sir. We're investigating. It appears his vehicle ran off the road into a river near County Route 22. We'd like you to come identify him." Shock hit Harvey like a physical blow. He swerved, pulling the car to the roadside, hand trembling on the wheel. "No, this can't." "I'm sorry," the sheriff said gently. "We'll need you at the county morgue. I'll text you the address." Harvey mumbled some acknowledgement, ended the call, heart pounding so loud he thought he might pass out. Lloyd, my father, dead. The man who'd just pledged to help him gather evidence. The man who'd hinted at huge revelations gone in an accident. He recalled Rose's warning. They're dangerous. Clyde's smug threats. Could this be more than an accident? Or was Lloyd's vehicle failing due to some mechanical glitch? Grief and rage warred in his mind. He took several deep breaths, forced the car back onto the road, and drove in a daze toward the morgue address. It was midnight by the time Harvey left the morgue, Eyes burning from tears, he refused to fully shed in public. The official line was that Lloyd's car skidded off a wet patch of road, crashed through a guardrail, and submerged in a river. No obvious foul play. The police said, though, they promised a more thorough investigation. But Harvey's guts screamed. Lloyd had specifically said he'd found something big. Then hours later, he was dead in a suspicious single-car incident. This is no coincidence. The sheriff, noticing Harvey's agitation, tried to reassure him. If we find any sign of tampering, we'll let you know. Harvey nodded numbly. I hope so. Leaving the county building, he slumped into his SUV, tears finally spilling. Lloyd was gone. The father who'd always tried to stand by him, albeit passively at times, was snuffed out. Damn them, he thought, fists pounding the steering wheel. Damn Clyde, damn Rose. Could Camille even be a part of this murder? The idea was staggering, but nothing seemed impossible now. He thought about calling Camille for support, but the betrayal still raged in him. She might not care. Instead, he found himself calling Alexandra. She picked up on the second ring, voice laced with concern. Harvey? He managed to choke out the awful news. A gasp sounded on her end. Oh God, Lloyd's gone? Harvey nodded, tears wet on his cheeks. Yes. They say it was an accident, but I'm sure it was them, Clyde or Rose. I can't prove it yet. She exhaled shakily. My God, I'm so sorry. This is huge. We have to be careful. If they're willing to kill to keep secrets. I know, he interrupted, voice raw. But I won't back down. Dad died trying to help me. I owe it to him to see this through. Alexandra's tone softened. Where are you now? Are you safe? He closed his eyes. Just left the morgue. I'm just numb. Please, find somewhere secure, she urged. Don't go back to the resort. Let me know if I can do anything. Thanks, he whispered, swallowing grief. I'll keep you posted. Harvey spent the night in a cheap motel off the highway. Sleep was impossible. Anger and sorrow consumed him in waves. Lloyd had died, presumably for daring to stand against Rose and Clyde. I'll bring them down, he vowed silently. Whatever it takes. By dawn, he scrolled through the final text Lloyd had sent. I found something. We must meet tomorrow. That meeting would never happen. But maybe Lloyd left a clue somewhere. A safety deposit box? A note? Harvey clung to the hope that traces of Lloyd's evidence existed. His phone buzzed Camille again. He let it ring. Then a voicemail icon blinked. He played it out of morbid curiosity. Camille's voice, subdued. Harvey, your mother told me something terrible happened to Lloyd. I'm so sorry, please call me. I don't know what's going on, but I want to help. He shook his head bitterly, tears threatening again. She wanted to help? She's part of the reason this is happening. He deleted the voicemail, jaw set. He had to remain strong. No cowering, no confusion. Just unwavering determination to avenge his father, protect his children, and unravel the twisted conspiracy that had stolen the man who dared to stand by him. Chapter 3. The memorial service for Lloyd was arranged within days. It took place in a modest funeral home in Central Florida, far from the sun-soaked glamour of Key Largo. Harvey wore a dark suit, face drawn and pale, receiving condolences from acquaintances, old friends of Lloyd, and some extended family. He felt hollow, half listening to eulogies that painted Lloyd as a quiet but steadfast man. Over and over, people said, "He loved you, Harvey," or "He was so proud of your architectural successes." Harvey nodded mechanically, sorrow mixing with the burning knowledge that his father's death was likely no accident. Rose arrived in a limousine, stepping out in a sleek black dress, face unreadable behind large sunglasses. She gave a brief, obligatory hug to Harvey, murmuring, I'm so sorry for our loss. As if reciting lines, he detected no genuine grief in her demeanor. Camille followed behind, holding the hands of the children. She appeared genuinely upset, eyes red, shoulders trembling, but Harvey couldn't trust her tears. Clyde was notably absent, though, possibly orchestrating something behind the scenes. Harvey's heart twisted when the kids clung to him, tearful and confused about why Grandpa Lloyd wasn't coming back. He fought tears of his own, kneeling to comfort them. The children's innocence only fueled his resolve. The service was short. Afterward, a few close family members gathered in a side room with the casket. Rose stood at the coffin's edge, expression hard. Camille hung back, eyes darting anxiously between Harvey and Rose. Finally, Rose exhaled a dramatic sigh. He was a good man, in his own quiet way, but he should have listened. The words were so cold, so dismissive that Harvey's blood boiled. Camille stepped forward, placing a hand on Harvey's arm. "Let's not fight here," she whispered. "Please." He glanced at her, bitterness rising. "Fight about what, Camille? My father just died. Should I question how?" A flicker of alarm crossed Camille's face. "Harvey, no one meant for—" "Stop." He cut her off, turning away. She cast her gaze down. When the memorial concluded, people dispersed. Harvey caught a glimpse of Jonathan Malone, Lloyd's longtime lawyer, standing near the exit. The older man beckoned discreetly. Harvey excused himself from Rose's vicinity and approached Malone, heart pounding. Malone gave a solemn nod. "Your father requested I give you something if anything ever happened to him. I didn't want to pass it along in front of everyone." He extended a sealed folder. Harvey's breath caught. "You have no idea how important this is." Malone's eyes flickered with sympathy. "I suspect it's quite important. Lloyd was a good man, Harvey. He worried for your safety." Harvey accepted the folder, pressing it to his chest. "Thank you." He wanted to open it immediately, but a funeral home hallway wasn't exactly the place. Malone touched his shoulder. "Be careful, son. If Lloyd's suspicions are correct, you're up against formidable forces, but you have allies too." "Thank you," Harvey repeated softly. That evening, back at the Gainesville site's mobile office, his new hideaway, Harvey locked the door and finally tore open the sealed folder. Inside were partial DNA test results dated years ago, referencing Child A and Child B. The mother's name was blacked out. The father's field read, inconclusive. Harvey's heart pounded. This must be about the kids. Yet it was incomplete, only referencing a 040 paternal index. He wasn't a genetics expert, but it implied uncertainty. Another document, half-typed, half-handwritten, mentioned Rose's insistence on a retest, not trusting the initial lab. Concern Clyde's possible fatherhood. It ended abruptly. He scowled in confusion. So Lloyd had tested the kids behind Harvey's back, possibly at Rose's urging, but the results were inconclusive. Another line read, "He may not be the father. She may have lied to Clyde." Harvey's stomach flipped. This is so twisted. The kids might be mine, or might be Clyde's, or maybe the test was tampered with, and Rose is in the middle. He sank onto the couch, reading again. He discovered a single sticky note attached. "Harvey, these docs came from the deposit box I mentioned. Sorry I don't have more. If something happens to me, trust your instincts. Dad." Tears blurred his vision. His father had tried to protect him. Late that night, he video called Alexandra, showing her the partial DNA test documents. She frowned, pushing a stray hair behind her ear. This indicates some serious tampering, or at least confusion. Could Rose have tried to manipulate the test to keep both Clyde and you guessing? Harvey rubbed his face. Seems likely. She might have told Clyde the kids were his or hinted at it to keep him loyal. Meanwhile, she told me they were definitely mine. But these documents are incomplete, so I can't confirm anything. Alexandra gave a grim nod. Then let's get a fresh test. Miller can help discreetly. Meanwhile, I'll keep digging into Clyde's finances. If we can prove your mother's funding him and orchestrating this, we can build a strong case. He clenched his jaw. I want more than a strong case. I want them to pay for Lloyd's death. This can't just be a quiet divorce or hush money. They need real consequences. Her expression hardened. I understand. I'll do everything I can to help. Before ending the call, Harvey let out a shuddering breath. Thank you, Alexandra, really. She gave a small, supportive smile. We're in this together. In the days that followed, Rose tried to contact Harvey repeatedly. He ignored most calls. The one time he answered, her tone was eerily smooth. Darling, we need to plan Lloyd's final estate matters. Come speak to me in person. He refused, claiming he was tied up with work. She pressed, but he hung up. No, Mother, he wouldn't meet her alone. Not until he was ready for a proper confrontation. Camille also bombarded him with messages, alternating between tearful pleas, "Why won't you let me comfort you in your grief?" and defensive barbs, "You're acting insane, Harvey. We're your family." He scoffed at her gall. She might mourn Lloyd, but she'd done nothing to stop the creeping influence of Clyde. Whether or not she was directly complicit in murder, she'd betrayed their marriage. One day, Clyde texted him a single line. "Come home, baby brother. Don't let suspicion break us." It made Harvey's skin crawl. Meanwhile, the local detective in the county where Lloyd died informed Harvey that, upon initial inspection, Lloyd's car had worn brake lines, which might have contributed. They were sending it to a forensics lab to see if any tampering was involved. Harvey's gut told him they'd find something suspicious. He spent hours reviewing old voicemails from Lloyd, searching for coded hints. Some were mundane. One, from a week prior, mentioned Rose's father's old connections, which might have been relevant to Clyde's shady resources. At the construction site, a few employees noticed the boss's changed demeanor, more withdrawn, short-tempered. He apologized once, quietly explaining he'd lost his father. They offered condolences, and he appreciated it, but kept the deeper horrors private. A break came when the detective from Lloyd's case called with a somber tone. "We have strong evidence. Your father's brake lines were cut, Mr. Dawson. This is officially a homicide investigation." Harvey's heart thudded. "You're certain?" "Yes. The lab found a clean slice, not typical wear. We're investigating suspects, but we'll need your cooperation. Did your father have enemies?" He nearly spat out. "Yes, my mother, Rose, and half-brother, Clyde, but proving it might be tough." The detective sounded grim. "We'll do our best. If you get any leads, share them with us, and watch your back." That night, once again in the trailer's quiet confines, Harvey stared at his reflection in a small mirror, dark circles under his eyes. It's murder, then. Lloyd had been silenced because he was about to reveal Rose's and Clyde's scheme. A surge of rage nearly drove him to storm off and confront them physically. But logic prevailed. He needed more evidence, a thorough plan, not a reckless blow-up. "I'll see them behind bars," he vowed. "I'll watch them lose everything." He called Alexandra. "We have confirmation. Lloyd was murdered." His voice trembled with barely contained fury. She gasped. "My God, so it's true. Clyde and Rose, do you think?" "Absolutely," he hissed. "They must have realized Lloyd was about to talk. Now we bring them down. I want your PI to dig even deeper. Money trails, phone logs, anything. And I'll coordinate with the detective." "Count me in," she said fiercely. We'll get justice." Within 48 hours, the detective had more ominous news. They found phone records showing Clyde's number had pinged near Lloyd's route that night, though Clyde's official alibi was being at the resort with Rose. The detective was building a timeline, but they needed more direct proof like a confession or an eyewitness. Harvey considered wearing a wire. If Clyde was arrogant enough, he might brag about getting rid of Lloyd. Rose might slip as well, though she was colder, more cautious. A wiretap might also confirm Camille's complicity, if any. He shuddered at the thought that his own wife might know about the murder. Then again, she might just be a pawn. A willing pawn, but still a pawn. Late that week, a small memorial was held for Lloyd in their hometown. This time, Harvey forced himself to attend, if only to glean who else might show up. Sure enough, Rose arrived, exuding a quiet authority. She wore a black designer dress, dark glasses, face impassive. Camille was at her side, looking pale. No Clyde, apparently. He'd left town on business. Or so Rose claimed. After the service, Harvey mustered the courage to approach Rose in the chapel's side hall. "Why, Mother?" he said quietly, voice trembling. "Why did he have to die?" She gave him a cool stare. "Accidents happen, dear." He stepped closer, fists clenched. "We both know it wasn't an accident." She tilted her head, smirking faintly. "Careful, Harvey. Grief can cloud your judgment. Don't make wild accusations you can't support." A swirl of nausea and fury threatened to overwhelm him. "I will prove it," he growled. "Every bit of it." She arched an eyebrow. "This path you're on, it won't end well. For you or your children." His heart pounded. "Stay away from my kids!" But Rose simply turned on her heel, striding away with chilling composure. Camille lingered, tears in her eyes, muttering, "Harvey, I... He cut her off, voice a snarl. "Don't! I can't even look at you right now!" She retreated, leaving him shaking. Chapter 4. Harvey returned to the Gainesville trailer that same night, hollow and burning with the need to confirm the affair once and for all. He had a hunch Clyde and Camille would be brazen enough to talk openly if they thought he was out of the picture. Mourning or too distraught. Teaming up with Alexandra's PI, he purchased a few discreet cameras and audio bugs top-off-the-line gear. The plan: surreptitiously plant them in Harvey's main house back in Orlando, where Camille would return soon. He also wanted to bug Rose's estate if possible, but that might be riskier. One step at a time. "We'll start with your marital bedroom," the PI said over speakerphone. "That's usually where unfaithful spouses slip. We can wire the living room, too." Harvey, exhausted, agreed. "Yes, let's catch them in the act or discussing it." He still felt a pang that he was resorting to espionage. But recalling Lloyd's murder, the lies, the possibility that his children might be roped into some paternal fraud, he felt no guilt. They'd forced his hand. "Also," the PI added, "I can set up remote access, so you can watch real-time from your phone, but be cautious with that feed. If they catch you streaming, it's over." Harvey swallowed. "Understood." Within days, Camille texted, "I'm heading back to Orlando with the kids. We need to talk. I'll wait at the house." He responded curtly, "Fine. I'll come when I'm ready." In truth, he was already one step ahead. The PI and a tech expert posing as repairmen spent an afternoon installing hidden cameras behind a lamp in the master bedroom, a fake smoke detector in the hallway, and a disguised wall clock in the living room, all fed into a secure server. That evening, Harvey stayed at a friend's condo under the pretense of traveling for business. Using a special app, he checked the camera feeds. The house was empty, quiet. Then, about 9 p.m., Camille arrived with the kids. He watched them shuffle in, exhausted. Camille looked anxious, glancing at her phone repeatedly. His heart twisted seeing his children, hearing them chatter about, "Where's Daddy?" He clenched his jaw, resolved. He'd be there soon. But first he needed the clarity of catching Camille's betrayal red-handed. The next morning, from the safety of the condo, he logged into the feed again. Camille was pacing the living room calling someone. Her voice came through scratchy but audible. "No, Clyde. You can't just barge in. Harvey might come back any minute. Let's meet tomorrow." Harvey's stomach churned. So it was openly Clyde on the phone. She lowered her voice, adding, "Yes, Rose said the same, that he's suspicious. But I'm worried about all this. Lloyd's gone, and Harvey's not stupid." A pause. Then she said, "Don't talk like that. We never intended fine. Just come by tonight when the kids are asleep, but be quick." She hung up, exhaling tremulously. Harvey's blood pounded. Tonight. They'll meet. Perfect. A cold, methodical satisfaction mingled with heartbreak. He'd see for himself who she truly was. He spent the day coordinating with the detective about Lloyd's murder case, providing Clyde's phone data, which Alexandra had gleaned from her PI. Meanwhile, the detective confirmed Rose had a suspicious meeting with a known fixer 2 weeks prior. The net was tightening, but Harvey's immediate focus was the evening. He holed up in the condo, phone in hand, waiting for that hidden camera feed to light up with evidence. Around 9 p.m., the app pinged. The hallway camera showed Clyde entering the house, quietly shutting the door behind him. Harvey's pulse raced. Here we go. Clyde glanced around, muttering, "Camille?" She emerged from the living room, pressed a finger to her lips. "The kids are asleep." They moved into the living room, and the hidden mic picked up low conversation. Harvey turned up the volume, hand trembling. On screen, Clyde tossed aside a small duffel bag. "We need to talk about Harvey," he said. "He's vanished, but not for good. The detective's sniffing around. Rose is livid that Lloyd tried to sabotage us." Camille rubbed her arms, anxious. "This is insane. I never wanted anyone dead. Are we safe? What if the cops link it to us?" Clyde's mouth curved in a cold smirk. "Don't panic. The break thing was handled by professionals. No direct trail leads to us. Rose is making sure of that." Camille exhaled shakily. "But Harvey? He's not some clueless dope. He's my husband. He'll keep digging." "Your husband," Clyde repeated with a sneer. "He's an inconvenience, that's all. Keep him clueless or threatened. Rose says if he pushes too far, we plant evidence to discredit him. Maybe claim he's unstable, lost his mind after his father's accident." Camille's eyes darted. I don't like this. I never planned for murder, blackmail, I wanted you, and the comfort, and maybe controlling some money. But this..." Clyde gripped her shoulders firmly, voice low and menacing. "It's too late to back out. You're in as deep as me. We both strung Harvey along. We can't let him blow everything up." She stifled a sob. "I know. God, how did it come to this?" Harvey's heart hammered, tears burning. So she admitted the affair and complicity. This was real, not just paranoia. In the video, Clyde softened, stroking her hair. "Look, babe, we keep calm, keep our story straight. If Harvey tries divorcing you, fight it. He has no proof we're hooking up. Deny, deny, deny." She sighed. "And the kids, I do care about them. But all this drama..." Clyde shrugged. "If push comes to shove, Rose will handle them. She's always had a soft spot for controlling the younger generation. Maybe we'll all keep them under our roof once we cut Harvey out." A fresh surge of rage nearly made Harvey throw his phone. "They're talking about my children like property." Camille wiped her eyes, then leaned in, kissing Clyde hungrily. The feed caught it all, the brazen passion, the whispered endearments. They parted, breathless. "You taste like trouble," she teased bitterly. Clyde chuckled. "Trouble's what I do best." The conversation shifted to finances. Clyde mentioned some joint accounts Rose had set up, referencing how they'd filter money from Harvey's businesses. Camille only half listened, racked with guilt. "Just be careful. Harvey's not an idiot," she repeated. Clyde hushed her with another kiss, leading her out of the living room. The hallway camera showed them heading toward the bedroom, presumably to continue their tryst. Harvey's mouth went dry. He forced himself to keep watching, though heartbreak stabbed him. The bedroom camera feed flicked on, capturing them entering, locking the door. Clothing shed, bodies entwined, a swirl of obscene betrayal. He couldn't watch more. Enough was enough. He minimized the screen, trembling with fury. Now he had definitive proof, visual, audio. They were plotting to keep him under control financially. They admitted involvement, or at least acceptance, of Lloyd's murder. This was bigger than a cheating scandal, it was a conspiracy. He quickly saved the footage to a secure drive, then alerted the detective with a cryptic text. "I have crucial audio of Clyde admitting key details. Let's coordinate." The detective responded promptly, setting a meeting time. Harvey also forwarded some clips to Alexandra, ensuring multiple backups existed. He slumped in the condo's armchair, numb. "They murdered Lloyd, threatened me, planned to rope my children into this." The heartbreak was overshadowed by a cold, purposeful rage. Now the puzzle was nearly complete. At dawn, restless and haunted by the night's revelations, he left the condo, driving aimlessly. He ended up in a quiet park, sipping bad coffee from a gas station. The sun rose in pastel streaks, a new day that should have felt hopeful. Instead, he felt battered, but he also felt resolved. No more illusions. He dialed his attorney friend, Angela, a sharp legal mind. She picked up, half asleep. "Harvey? It's early. What's going on?" He poured out the details, or as much as he could in a short call, the affair, the taped confession, the suspicion of murder. Angela was aghast. "This is huge, Harvey. We can file for divorce on grounds of adultery, moral abandonment, possibly more serious charges, but if they're criminals, you also need the DA involved." "Yes," he murmured. "I'm meeting a detective soon. I want Camille indicted if she's complicit in murder or conspiracy." Angela sighed. "That might happen. But you'll need to carefully coordinate with law enforcement. Don't confront them alone. They're dangerous." He nodded to himself. "Understood. Thanks, Angela." That afternoon, he met the detective at a secure location, an office used by the homicide division. He provided the hidden camera footage. The detective listened, jaw tightening as Clyde bragged about handling Lloyd and controlling Harvey. The officer exhaled. "This is damning. We can't use the bedroom portion in open court if it's too explicit, but the conversation about finances and your father's death is enough, especially Clyde bragging about tampering." Harvey nodded, voice gravelly. "So we can arrest them?" "Potentially. We might want to lure Clyde into more direct admissions, but this is strong. We'll see if we can get a warrant. As for your mother, Rose, she's not on this tape, but they mention her. We'll need more. If we have probable cause, we can search her property." Harvey's eyes burned with exhaustion. "Whatever it takes. I want them behind bars." The detective gave a solemn nod. "We're close. Keep a low profile. Don't let them suspect you have this footage." Harvey let out a shaky breath. "I won't. Meanwhile, I'll talk to my attorney about divorce proceedings. Camille can't weasel out of this." The detective patted Harvey's shoulder. "You're doing the right thing. I'm sorry about your father." Harvey swallowed hard, tears threatening. "Me too. I'll see this through." For him. Chapter 5. Harvey leaned against his SUV, eyes fixed on the unassuming police station exit. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows on the pavement. He'd just finished handing over the damning audio and video recordings to the detective investigating Lloyd's murder. Now, with Clyde's brazen confession on tape and clear evidence of an ongoing affair with Camille, it felt as though the net was finally drawing tight. But the detective had urged caution. Building an airtight case could take time, especially if Rose's involvement required separate warrants. Harvey exhaled a breath that felt a few degrees lighter than it had in weeks. It wasn't over far from it, but at least this was a tangible step forward. We can't let them slip away, he reminded himself. Clyde had admitted to tampering with Lloyd's car brakes, or at least masterminding it. Camille had stood by, not exactly objecting. Rose's name hovered at the edges, a looming puppet master behind it all. He checked his phone, a missed call from Alexandra, plus a single text reading, "Harvey, I've got something major on Clyde's finances. Call me ASAP." A flicker of hope stirred. If Alexandra's private investigator uncovered more lines of evidence embezzlement, hidden bank accounts, proof Rose funneled money to Clyde, it could help the homicide charges stick while also bolstering Harvey's impending divorce case. He climbed into the driver's seat, started the engine, and returned her call. She answered almost instantly, voice crackling through the car's Bluetooth. "Harvey, are you somewhere you can talk?" He pulled out of the station parking lot. "Yes, just finished meeting the detective." "What's going on?" A rustle of papers came through the line. "My PI, Miller, found solid leads on Clyde's gambling debts. He's been paying off loan sharks with hush money he siphoned from accounts labeled under Rose's shell corporations. It's massive. The amounts are huge, possibly hundreds of thousands. If this ties directly to your mother's finances, it's an undeniable link that she's bankrolling his illegal activities." Harvey's grip tightened on the steering wheel. "So he's not only a murderer and a cheat, but also a chronic gambler in deep debt. Perfect. The detective will want that. They can use financial motive as evidence of why Clyde felt compelled to kill my father. Maybe Lloyd threatened to expose the money trail." "Exactly," Alexandra agreed. "Miller's finalizing a report. I can forward it to your detective contact. Also, I scheduled an appointment with my divorce lawyer tomorrow. If you want, we can talk strategy for your divorce petition, too." He nodded, merging onto the highway. "Yes, let's do it. I want no delays. Camille can't walk away from this unscathed." Alexandra's tone gentled. "I know it's painful, but you're doing the right thing." Harvey swallowed the lump in his throat. "Painful doesn't even begin to cover it. But yes, I have to see it through." They exchanged a few more details, then ended the call. Harvey decided to check into a small business hotel near Orlando for a night or two while the detective's team arranged next steps. He had no intention of going home to that house while Camille stayed there, especially since the children remained in her care, and the situation was legally precarious. A swirl of guilt and worry about his kids weighed on him. There with a mother who might be complicit in murder, the detective had told him to keep calm, that removing the children forcibly might complicate matters. Child Protective Services often required a court order. But I can't leave them vulnerable forever, he thought grimly. Soon, once the official wheels turned, he'd push for full custody. He parked at the hotel, shoulders aching with tension. Inside the modestly furnished room, he collapsed onto the bed, pulling out his phone to review the hidden camera app. The house feed was quiet, no sign of Clyde tonight. Camille paced the living room, phone in hand, appearing agitated. The children were presumably asleep upstairs. He turned up the audio slightly. "Camille," voice trembling. "Why won't you answer, Clyde? Don't go radio silent on me now. Rose keeps texting that you're safe. But I need to hear your voice. A pause. Harvey's going to come back eventually, and I can't keep stalling. The line beeped as she ended the call, frustration clear on her face. She flopped onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. After a few minutes, she retreated upstairs. The feed went still. Harvey stared at the screen, emotions roiling. Heartbreak, anger, a cruel satisfaction that at least she was squirming. You should be afraid, Camille. Morning dawned. Harvey rose early, meeting Alexandra at a downtown cafe. She wore a simple blouse and skirt, hair pinned back, carrying a binder stuffed with documents. They found a back corner table, exchanging somber smiles. Busy night? She asked, gently, noticing the fatigue etched on his face. He sighed. Barely slept. Camille's still at the house, calling Clyde. My guess is she's freaking out that he's gone silent. Alexandra nodded, setting down her coffee cup. He's probably hiding. The detective might have put pressure on some of his associates, or Rose told him to lay low. Either way, it's all good for our side. Harvey flipped open the binder she handed him. Inside were spreadsheets listing Clyde's transactions, money funneled through obscure LLCs, then distributed to gambling dens and loan sharks. He felt a flare of righteous anger. This is powerful. Combined with the murder confession, it paints a picture of a desperate man who'd do anything. Precisely, Alexandra said. If the DA can show Clyde needed your father out of the way to maintain the flow of funds or to avoid detection that cements motive. Meanwhile, Rose's involvement is likely more about power and control. She might have different reasons for orchestrating Lloyd's death or supporting Clyde's crimes. Harvey stared at the neat columns of numbers. Any sign of Camille's name on these accounts? Alexandra tapped a page. Not directly, but there's an occasional reference to a CD. Could be Clyde, could be Camille Dawson. Hard to say. We'd need deeper forensic accounting. He exhaled heavily. I'd bet Rose set up a nest egg for them, my wife and half-brother. God, this is twisted. They left the cafe and headed to a nearby law office, where Alexandra's divorce attorney, Ms. Waverly, had agreed to a combined consultation. Ms. Waverly was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s with graying hair swept into a non-nonsense bun. She greeted Alexandra warmly, then turned her keen gaze on Harvey. So, you want to file for divorce on grounds of adultery, conspiracy, moral abandonment, correct? She confirmed, flipping through notes. Harvey nodded, jaw set. Yes, we have video proof of her affair with Clyde, plus audio indicating she was aware of or complicit in my father's murder. I want full custody of my kids, immediate asset protection, everything. Waverly frowned. We can definitely aim for an emergency protective order if we fear for the children's safety. However, the court usually requires solid evidence of direct endangerment. Your homicide detective's findings could help. Once they indict Camille or name her a suspect, that's enough for the court to remove the children from her custody. Harvey tensed. But until then, my kids remain with her? Potentially, yes, Waverly admitted. Unless she's arrested. Have you spoken to the detective about child protection? He grimaced. Yes. They said they're moving as fast as they can. I just hate waiting. Alexandra touched his shoulder. The system can be slow, but we'll keep pushing. Ms. Waverly made a few notes. We'll draft a divorce petition immediately. You'll sign an affidavit describing the adultery, the criminal conspiracy, the emotional harm. Once we file, the court can issue preliminary injunctions freezing marital assets. That stops Camille from siphoning money out. Harvey nodded resolutely. Good. Let's do it. By early afternoon, the legal paperwork was in motion. Harvey signed each page with a grim sense of resolve. Ms. Waverly promised to file it in the next 24 hours, after which a process server would formally serve Camille. Exiting the law office, Harvey's phone buzzed the detective. He stepped aside, pressing the device to his ear. Detective Reyes. We got enough from your audio to bring Clyde in for questioning. He's nowhere to be found. We suspect Rose hit him in one of her properties or he skipped town. Also, we're seeking a warrant for Rose's communications. Harvey's pulse kicked up. So it begins. Reyes cleared his throat. Yes, and about Camille, there's no direct admission on tape that she partook in the murder. But she didn't protest it. We're seeing if that's enough to charge her as an accomplice. Meanwhile, we might want to question her soon. But if we do, she'll know you've turned evidence over. Harvey rubbed his temple. Let me file for divorce first. Then you can question her. She'll be served papers. Realize I'm not playing around. Maybe she'll crack. That's one strategy, the detective agreed. Just be careful. If Rose and Clyde suspect you have them cornered, they could lash out. We don't want more casualties. Harvey swallowed. I'll watch my back. The rest of the day blurred with calls, planning, an undercurrent of dread. That night, Harvey holed up in the hotel, anxiety thrumming. A sense of final confrontation loomed once Camille got served. She might call or come running with tears or threats. He checked the hidden camera feed around 10 p.m. Camille was pacing in the living room, biting her nails, phone repeatedly to her ear. No sign of Clyde. The kids must have been asleep. After a while, she flopped onto the couch, sobbing softly. The audio caught fragments. Why, Clyde? Why vanish now? Harvey's going to kill me if he finds out everything. I never meant to... Oh, God! Harvey watched, chest tight. Despite his anger, seeing her genuine despair tugged at some corner of his heart. He'd loved her once, built a life, fathered children. Yet she'd turned on him, chosen Clyde over their marriage, and possibly conspired to cover up a murder. He forced away pity. She made her choice. Eventually, she dragged herself to bed. Harvey ended the feed, determined to finalize his revenge. By mid-morning next day, the divorce petition was officially filed. Ms. Waverly texted Harvey. Process server en route to your home. He parked discreetly down the street from the house, watching from a distance as a suited man approached the front door. Camille answered, looking groggy in sweatpants. The server handed her an envelope, said a few words. Her face went slack, then crumpled. She tried to protest, but he simply turned and left. Harvey's heart pounded as he watched her retreat inside, slamming the door. He imagined her flipping through the legal documents. Accusations of adultery, conspiracy, demands for full custody. Now she knows. He started his car, deciding to circle the block once. Then, on a whim, he parked and activated the camera feed. Curiosity gnawing at him. The living room lens showed Camille frantically reading page after page, tears streaking her face, phone pressed to her ear again. Possibly calling Clyde or Rose. After several attempts, she threw her phone across the couch, yelling in frustration. She raked her hands through her hair, muttering to herself, "This can't be happening. God, how do I fix this? Rose said we'd handle it." Then she grabbed the kids' backpacks, rummaging as if wanting to pack. A spike of alarm hit Harvey. Was she planning to flee with the children? He grit his teeth, prepared to intervene if needed. But after a few minutes, she just sank to the floor, sobbing. The children rushed in from another room, confused, hugging her. She tried to reassure them, failing miserably. Harvey's heart clenched. They don't deserve this chaos. But he steeled himself. 2 hours later, a text from Ms. Waverly popped up. Camille's lawyer called, wanting an urgent meeting. She's panicking. Harvey smirked grimly. Panic away. He typed back, I'll meet them only with you present. Let me know the time. Within the hour, Ms. Waverly confirmed a meeting the next day at her office. Camille's lawyer, some junior associate from a mid-tier firm, planned to come. They'd see if Camille demanded spousal support or tried to deny the adultery. Harvey ended the text exchange, stepping back into his SUV. A new determination coursed through him. It's all unraveling for them. That evening, he finally decided to see his children, albeit carefully. He told Ms. Waverly he'd pop by the house, but only to see the kids, and only if Camille agreed to remain calm. Ms. Waverly advised caution, warning that any altercation might sabotage their case. But Harvey needed to reassure the kids he hadn't abandoned them. He arrived around dusk. The front door opened, revealing a tense-looking Camille, eyes swollen from crying. She wordlessly stepped aside to let him in. The kids rushed him, hugging him tight, tears in their own eyes. He knelt, hugging them back, heart aching. "Dad," Jacob choked out, "Mom's been crying. She said you might be leaving us forever." Harvey shot a glare at Camille, who looked away. "I'm not leaving you," he assured them firmly. "I love you. Some grown-up stuff is going on, but you're my kids. Always." They sniffled, clinging. He gently ushered them to the living room couch, gave them each a small, stuffed animal he'd picked up. They brightened a bit, nestling beside him. For a few precious moments, he let the tension slip, just focusing on comforting them. Camille hovered by the corner, arms wrapped around herself. Finally, she muttered, "Harvey, can we talk?" He exhaled. "Kids, why don't you go pick a story in your room? I'll read to you in a minute." They scampered off, hopeful. Harvey rose, facing Camille. The hidden camera was rolling, but he didn't care. He wanted a direct confrontation. Her voice trembled. "I never wanted to hurt you. This divorce filing so sudden, we could have talked." He let out a bitter laugh. "Talked? After you've been sneaking around with Clyde, plotting behind my back, mocking me in my own bed?" He kept his voice low, mindful of the children in the other room. She winced. "I was lonely. Okay? You were always at work. And Clyde, he listened. Rose said it was harmless at first, then everything spiraled. I swear I didn't want Lloyd dead. I had no clue it would go this far." A rage flickered in his eyes. "But you went along with it once it happened. You kept lying, pushing me away, siding with them." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I was scared. Rose is terrifying, Clyde's manipulative, they threatened me. He cut her off. "Save it for the judge, or better yet, the detective. I'm done." He turned to go. She grabbed his arm, voice desperate. "Wait, please. We can fix this. I'll cut ties with Clyde. I'll do anything. Just don't take the kids from me." Harvey yanked his arm free. "You should have thought about that before. The kids deserve better. You think I'll let them be raised by a murderer's mistress? Stay away." She sobbed helplessly as he strode to the children's bedroom, ignoring her pleas. He spent the next half hour reading to them, hugging them, promising them he'd be around more often. Meanwhile, Camille hovered in the hallway, silently weeping. Eventually, he slipped out. The final image he had was her crumpled on the living room floor, choking on tears. But no pity softened his resolve. She'd made her choices. Now, face the consequences. Chapter 6. The following morning brought the dreaded emergency meeting at Ms. Waverly's law office. Harvey arrived dressed in a neat blazer and tie, anger carefully leashed. Camille's lawyer, a nervous young man named Parker, sat at a polished conference table, flipping through notes. Camille herself was conspicuously absent. Ms. Waverly greeted Harvey with a firm handshake. "Let's see what they want," she murmured. Moments later, Parker cleared his throat, indicating the start. "Mr. Dawson, Ms. Dawson regrets she can't be here. She's home with the children. She asked me to relay her position." She's quite upset about this abrupt divorce filing and would like to negotiate a separation agreement rather than a contested divorce. Harvey raised an eyebrow. She's upset? Good. She had no problem betraying me behind my back. Parker flushed. Sir, Ms. Dawson acknowledges certain marital difficulties, but she denies any criminal wrongdoing or direct knowledge of your father's death. He glanced at his notes. She's open to some concessions, provided you don't seek sole custody or attempt to cut her off financially. A bitter laugh escaped Harvey. Unbelievable. She cheats, conspires, and wants me to keep funding her lifestyle? Ms. Waverly leaned forward. We have grounds for an at-fault divorce, Mr. Parker. My client has video and audio evidence. Your client is lucky we're even here discussing terms rather than letting a judge see everything. Parker paled. I see. Ms. Dawson wants to avoid a scandal. She's prepared to sign a non-disclosure arrangement about certain private matters, if Mr. Dawson agrees not to release any humiliating footage. Harvey's eyes narrowed. She's worried about humiliation? What about my father's murder? My children's safety? Parker shuffled papers nervously. Ms. Dawson insists she wasn't part of any murder plot. She's willing to do joint custody, keep the kids in the marital home, if you remain financially supportive. She'll move forward with a quiet settlement to avoid the affair going public. Harvey's anger simmered. No. Joint custody is off the table. I have evidence she's unfit morally and ethically compromised. And as for finances, she's got nerve asking me to fund her after she destroyed our marriage. Ms. Waverly nodded agreement. We're seeking sole physical custody for Mr. Dawson. Ms. Dawson can have supervised visitation if the court deems it appropriate, once any criminal matters are resolved. Parker swallowed. That's extreme. Ms. Dawson loves her children, Mr. Dawson. Are you sure you want to escalate? Harvey locked eyes with him. She escalated when she sided with murderers. I'm done. He turned to Miss Waverly. We're not budging. Parker fidgeted, flipping pages. I'll relay your stance, but Ms. Dawson asked for a specific request. A private meeting with you, no lawyers to talk. She believes you can reach a personal understanding. Harvey scoffed. We have nothing left to say. She can speak through counsel unless the detective calls her for questioning. Parker exhaled, crestfallen. All right, then, for the record, Ms. Dawson also denies that the children have questionable paternity. She claims they're unquestionably yours. A flash of confusion darted across Ms. Waverly's face. Did we mention paternity in our petition? She glanced at Harvey. He frowned. No, but interesting she'd bring that up unprompted. Parker shrugged helplessly. I only know what she told me. She said there's some rumor you doubt the kid's paternity, which she finds offensive. Ms. Waverly made a note. Duly noted. We might, however, request a fresh DNA test just to quell any rumors. If Ms. Dawson is truly confident, she'll agree, correct? Parker's face tightened. I'll discuss it with her. The meeting concluded. Parker hurried off to relay the tough stance to Camille, leaving Harvey and Ms. Waverly behind in the conference room. She turned to him, sighing. They're already panicking. That's a good sign for us, but watch out, Camille might do something rash. Harvey nodded, tension lining his features. I expect it. She threatened to flee, or at least she considered it. I can't let her vanish with the kids. Ms. Waverly tapped her pen. If you want immediate protection, we can file for a temporary restraining order preventing her from traveling out of state with the children. Judges often grant that if there's a flight risk. Let's do it, Harvey said grimly. I can't risk losing my kids to a mother who's part of a murder conspiracy. She jotted the request, promising to expedite it. We'll have an answer within days. Meanwhile, keep gathering evidence, especially anything linking her to Clyde or Rose. The more we show direct involvement, the stronger your custody claim. Harvey left the office, a swirl of relief and apprehension in his chest. He drove to a quiet diner, intending to collect his thoughts, maybe eat a sandwich. But stepping out of his SUV, he froze. Camille stood near the diner's entrance, arms folded, eyes red, like she'd been waiting. He inhaled sharply, bracing for confrontation. "What do you want?" She approached, chin quivering. "I just came from your lawyer's office. Parker told me everything. Harvey, please, I don't want a nasty court battle. We can settle this amicably." "Amicably?" He laughed coldly. "After everything you and Clyde pulled, after you kept me in the dark about my father's murder, you want amicable?" Her eyes darted around, making sure no one overheard. "I didn't kill Lloyd. I swear. I never meant for any of this to happen." Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I was stupid. I let Clyde's charm distract me. I felt neglected, but I never wanted you hurt." Harvey glowered. "Spare me the sob story. You played me for a fool. Now, you face consequences." She clutched his arm, voice trembling. "What about the kids, Harvey? You really want to tear them away from me completely? They love me." He yanked his arm free, reminiscent of their last confrontation. "They're my children, and they'll be safer without you. Once you're indicted, you'll be lucky to see them in supervised visits." Her face paled. "Indicted? No. The detective can't have anything on me." He sneered. "Keep telling yourself that." Camille's tears turned to anger. "You won't win if you push me. Clyde's got resources. Rose is powerful. They'll bury you in legal battles." Harvey stiffened. "Go ahead. Let them try. I have the truth on my side." For a fleeting moment, she looked almost remorseful. "Harvey, I did love you once. This all got out of control." She placed a trembling hand on his chest. "If you back off, I'll never see Clyde again. I'll be the wife you wanted, the mother the kids deserve." He recoiled, revulsion churning. "You think I want you back after you slept with my brother and conspired against me? You're delusional. We're done." She broke into renewed sobs. People passing by the diner glanced over curiously. Harvey felt no urge to console her. Instead, he hissed, "If you truly care about the kids, you'll accept the divorce, accept partial visitation, and pray the authorities go easy on you for your role in all this." Her sobbing turned to a bitter laugh. "You bastard!" She spun on her heel, stalking back to her car. He watched her drive off, face taut with fury. "It's war." Harvey entered the diner, adrenaline pumping. He ordered a coffee, trying to calm down, but his hands shook. The conversation with Camille only solidified his conviction. There would be no peaceful resolution. She was in too deep with Clyde and Rose, too willing to shift blame or hide behind tears when cornered. He checked the time. The detective wanted an update about Clyde's whereabouts. Harvey typed a quick text. "Camille's lawyering up, but no sign of Clyde. She says Rose is supporting him. He's MIA. Moments later, a response. "Understood? We've posted a bolo. Be on the lookout for Clyde. No leads yet." Harvey sipped his coffee, heart pounding. "Clyde on the run? Possibly. That might hamper the murder case unless they found him. But the taped confession alone could be huge. 2 days crawled by, each one an exercise in tension. Harvey stayed at the small Orlando condo he'd quietly rented, resisting any direct contact with Camille. He FaceTimed the kids occasionally under the guise of normal fatherly calls. She allowed it, likely on the advice of her lawyer. During one such FaceTime, he noticed bruises under Camille's eyes, like she hadn't slept. She forced a brittle smile, letting the kids babble about daily activities. He tried to sound positive for their sake, ignoring Camille's pained expression. Meanwhile, his phone notifications lit up with updates from Ms. Waverly. The temporary restraining order was granted, forbidding Camille from traveling out of state with the children, a minor victory, but crucial. He also checked the hidden camera feeds sporadically. Camille spent hours on calls, presumably with Parker or Rose. She looked increasingly frantic, rummaging through drawers as if searching for documents, or crying alone in the bedroom. Clyde never appeared again, fueling the rumor that he was in hiding. Finally, Ms. Waverly called with big news. The judge scheduled an emergency custody hearing in 3 days, given the seriousness of Harvey's allegations. If things went Harvey's way, the court could grant him temporary sole custody while the criminal investigation proceeded. Harvey felt a surge of both relief and dread. "I'll be in court face-to-face with Camille. She'll likely deny everything. But I have the footage." Ms. Waverly assured him that if the judge permitted, they'd show the sanitized portions of the tape, minus the graphic bedroom scenes, to prove adultery and conspiracy. That alone could sway the custody ruling. He closed his eyes, imagining the moment Camille would be exposed in a courtroom, forced to confront the raw evidence. She deserves it. Meanwhile, the detective delivered a major break in the case. Forensics from Lloyd's car confirmed clean cuts on the brake lines, plus faint prints matching one of Clyde's known associates. The detective expected an arrest warrant for Clyde soon, if only they could locate him. Harvey spent a restless night, haunted by nightmares of Lloyd's final moments. He woke determined to see this through. He reached out to Alexandra, who had her own court date soon, aiming to finalize her divorce from Clyde. They compared notes, each supporting the other's legal battles. Their unusual alliance deepened, forged in shared betrayal by Clyde. On a whim, Harvey asked about Alexandra's well-being. "How are you holding up personally?" She paused, voice soft. "It's been hard. I did love Clyde once, but he's shown his true colors. Now I just want my own closure." Harvey nodded, understanding all too well. "We'll get it." The morning of the custody hearing arrived. A crisp, clear sky mocked Harvey's inner turmoil as he donned a charcoal suit, riding with Ms. Waverly to the courthouse. He clutched a file of evidence, transcripts of Clyde's taped confession, proof of Camille's adultery, the suspicious paternity references. He also had a short statement prepared about the children's best interests. He spotted Camille outside the courtroom, flanked by Parker. She wore a conservative dress, hair pinned back, makeup trying to hide the traces of stress. She gave Harvey one pleading glance he ignored. Rose was nowhere in sight, likely orchestrating from behind the scenes. In the corridor, Ms. Waverly whispered, "Be calm. Be factual. Let me do the heavy lifting. The judge is known to be no-nonsense. Don't let Camille's tears distract you." He steadied his breathing, following her into the courtroom. The hearing began promptly, the judge a stern woman in her 50s. Opening statements flew by. Ms. Waverly laid out the gist Harvey had discovered an affair with Clyde, suspected involvement in Lloyd's murder, possessed audio indicating conspiracy. The judge's eyebrows rose. Parker tried to object, calling it unverified speculation, but Waverly promised to present recordings. When Ms. Waverly played a segment of the audio, Clyde's voice bragging about controlling Harvey, referencing handling Lloyd, and Camille's meek acceptance, the courtroom fell silent. The judge's gaze darkened. Parker fumbled to object, claiming the audio was obtained illegally. Ms. Waverly countered that it was Harvey's home, so no privacy violation for an adulterous spouse. The judge allowed it for now. Camille squirmed, face ashen. She whispered to Parker. The judge asked if Camille wanted to explain. Camille rose, tears brimming, voice shaking. I was coerced, threatened. Clyde manipulated me. I never intended to harm Lloyd. I love my children. Harvey's twisting this." Ms. Waverly pounced, pointing out that Camille never once protested in the recording, never contacted police. The judge looked unimpressed by Camille's weepy defense. Finally, the judge declared enough evidence to suspect Camille's environment might be unsafe for the children. She granted Harvey temporary sole custody, ordering supervised visitation for Camille, pending the murder investigation. Camille broke down in sobs. Harvey felt a surge of triumphant relief, tempered by heartbreak. My kids are safe. Chapter 7. The courthouse corridors buzzed with echoes of the judge's recent decision. Harvey had secured temporary sole custody of his children. Harvey stepped outside into the hot Florida sun, clinging to that small but vital victory. He heard Camille weeping behind him in the hallway, her last frantic outcry of, "They're my kids too," still rang in his ears. Yet his conscience refused to buckle. She'd chosen deceit, played accomplice, or at least turned a blind eye, in Lloyd's murder. The children deserved better. Outside, Ms. Waverly Harvey's attorney congratulated him quietly. "We did it. For now, the kids are safe under your roof. Next step is reinforcing that arrangement once criminal charges against Camille surface." Harvey nodded, scanning the crowd for any sign of Rose or Clyde. Neither had appeared. Perhaps they were lurking or had found some ruse to stay away. "I need to pick the kids up immediately," Harvey said, voice tight. "I won't risk them staying another night with her." Ms. Waverly patted his shoulder. "You have the court order. The police can assist if she resists. Just keep your composure." His jaw clenched. "I will." Clutching the official paperwork, he strode to his SUV, each footstep weighted by sorrow and grim resolve. Camille had wept for sympathy, but the judge wasn't swayed. The audio evidence of her involvement with Clyde the mocking, the admission she knew about murder after the fact, proved enough for the court to question her fitness as a guardian. Harvey called the detective Reyes on the drive to confirm the legal approach. Reyes answered promptly, voice crackling over speaker. "Harvey? I hear you got custody. Good news for the kids." "Yeah," Harvey said, navigating midday traffic. "I'm heading to the house. If Camille refuses to hand them over, dial 911 and show the order," Reyes finished. "Officers will enforce it. She might not fight, though. She must realize she can't defy a court directive without consequences." Harvey exhaled. "Hopefully. Any update on Clyde's whereabouts?" Reyes let out a low sigh. "Not yet. We have a warrant for his arrest in connection to brake tampering on Lloyd's car, but he's gone underground. We suspect Rose is hiding him, maybe at a remote property or even out of state. We're working every lead." Harvey's grip tightened on the wheel. "They'll run out of places eventually. Let me know the moment you find them." "Count on it," Reyes said. "Oh, and the DA is finalizing a case against Camille for conspiracy. That might roll out soon, so be on alert." Harvey thanked him, ending the call with a swirl of satisfaction and dread. The walls were closing in on Clyde, Rose, and yes, Camille. But cornered animals can lash out. Arriving at the suburban home that had once been a symbol of their family unity, Harvey felt a pang of nostalgia. The front yard was neat. The garden Camille once tended now wilted from neglect. He parked, took a steadying breath, then approached the door. It opened before he could knock. Camille stood there, face blotchy, eyes puffy. She cradled a messy stack of documents in one arm, likely the divorce and custody papers. "So it's true. You won," she whispered, voice hollow. Harvey held up the official court order. "The judge granted me sole custody for now. I'm here for the kids." Her eyes shone with fresh tears. "You're taking them away right this second?" "Yes," he said curtly. "I won't risk them staying in this environment." He swept his gaze inside. The living room was in mild disarray, boxes half-packed as if Camille contemplated fleeing. She pressed her lips together. "They're upstairs finishing lunch. I won't fight the order because the kids shouldn't see us fighting, but I want you to know, this is killing me." He studied her face, searching for genuine remorse. Part of him almost believed her sorrow was real. But the memory of that night, her in bed with Clyde, discussing controlling him, destroyed his empathy. "You made your bed," he muttered. "Now live with it." She stepped aside, letting him enter. The children, Jacob and Emily, peeked from the kitchen, uncertain. Harvey forced a gentle smile. "Hey, kiddos. Pack some clothes, okay? You're coming with me." They glanced at their mother, tears brimming. "But are we not living here anymore?" Emily asked. Harvey crouched, voice calm. "For now, we'll stay in a safer place. I promise we'll make it fun, okay?" They nodded, slowly, disappearing upstairs to collect their belongings in small backpacks. Camille watched, shoulders trembling. "Please tell them I love them," she rasped. Harvey didn't respond. Within half an hour, the children reappeared, each clutching a small suitcase. Camille hovered in the doorway, hands shaking. "Can I at least hug them goodbye?" Harvey's anger flared, but he restrained it for the kids' sake. "Go ahead." She knelt, tears cascading, whispering affectionate words to them. Emily started crying. Jacob looked distressed. Harvey gently guided them away, a protective arm around each child. "That's enough," he said softly, not wanting a meltdown to traumatize them further. As he escorted them out, Camille trailed behind, face stricken. Where will you stay?" He paused at the threshold. "We have a safe place lined up. The court says you get supervised visits later if you cooperate with investigators." She swallowed, voice trembling. "Rose told me I should stand my ground, but I can't. Not if it hurts the kids." He gave her a final, searching look. "Then maybe do the right thing. Confess everything you know about Clyde, about my father's death." Her lips parted, a flicker of fear in her eyes. "Rose would kill me," she whispered. He stepped outside, kids in tow, never looking back. "You made your choice," he thought. "Now you face the consequences." Harvey drove off, the kids subdued in the back seat. He forced a calm tone, reassuring them that this was temporary, that he'd explain more soon. They ended up at the small condo he'd rented, a tight space, but safer and more discreet than the family home. The children seemed confused, but Harvey mustered as much warmth as possible, promising to set up comfortable sleeping arrangements. That evening, Alexandra dropped by with a bag of groceries and a kind smile, offering help. The kids recognized her vaguely. She'd been around occasionally in the extended family circle. Now, she was a strange source of comfort. "Thank you for this," Harvey murmured after she stocked the tiny fridge with fruit, milk, cereal. She nodded. "You're not alone in this. Also, I heard about the hearing. Congratulations. Even though it's sad to tear them from their mother, we both know it's for their safety." Harvey sighed, leaning against the counter. "Yeah, they're my top priority." He glanced over to see Jacob and Emily quietly coloring at a small table. "Any new leads on Clyde?" Alexandra's expression turned grim. "Miller says no. He's vanished. Rose might be stashing him at some remote property. The detective is checking Rose's known real estate holdings, but half are in shell corporations. It's a labyrinth." His fists clenched. "We'll find him. And Rose. Then we'll nail them for murder and conspiracy." In the days that followed, Harvey settled into a careful routine, dropping the kids at a new school, courtesy of an emergency transfer, ensuring they had therapy appointments to process the sudden upheaval. He balanced fatherhood with relentless coordination with the detective, Ms. Waverly, and Alexandra's PI. Evidence piled up against Clyde and Rose, yet they remained elusive, like shadows dancing around the edges of the law. Camille, under the watchful eye of her lawyer, refrained from contacting Harvey directly, but did send occasional texts to check on the kids. He responded with curt, factual updates, ignoring any pleas for reconciliation. One afternoon, Ms. Waverly called. "Harvey, I have news. The lab completed a fresh DNA test on the children, cross-referencing your sample from that hairbrush. The result: both children are unequivocally yours." He froze, relief coursing through him. Thank God. A part of him had dreaded a twisted reveal that Clyde was the father. But this confirmation shattered Rose's manipulative rumor or any false claims. So it was all a lie to keep Clyde motivated? Yes, Ms. Waverly said. Or at least Rose wanted him to believe it. But biologically, those kids are 100% yours. Harvey exhaled, eyes stinging with gratitude. Thank you for confirming. This also means Clyde's illusions of paternity were another piece in their conspiracy. Exactly, Ms. Waverly agreed. We can use that in court to show the extent of their deception. Meanwhile, the homicide investigation ground forward. Detective Reyes visited the condo one evening, off duty, but determined. Harvey offered him a seat at the small dining table. The kids were in their room, engrossed in a cartoon. Reyes rubbed his temples, weary. We discovered partial proof Rose withdrew a large sum of cash from an offshore account the day after Lloyd's death. We suspect she funneled it to Clyde. We also traced calls from her phone to known fixers. Enough circumstantial evidence to indict her if we can pin an exact thread linking her to brake tampering. Harvey's jaw tightened. Rose, my own mother, orchestrating my father's murder. Sickening. Reyes nodded. She's a piece of work from what I've gathered. Problem is, we can't find her either. She left her main estate and her staff claims she's on vacation. No one knows where. A hollow laugh escaped Harvey. Vacation. Hiding from the law, more like it. Reyes spread his hands. Don't worry, we have an APB. She and Clyde can't stay hidden forever. Sooner or later, they'll surface. Money only goes so far. Harvey stared at the wall. I hope so. For Lloyd's sake. For all of ours. Life took on a surreal quality. Harvey juggled fatherhood, quiet nights in a cramped condo, ongoing legal battles, and the constant swirl of tension that Clyde or Rose might strike again. He found moments of levity with the kids making pancakes, reading bedtime stories determined to give them stability. They asked about Camille, and he answered gently, explaining that Mom has some big problems to sort out, but never outright poisoning them against her. Still, the children sensed the finality in his tone. One late evening, as the kids slept, Harvey sank onto the sofa, phone in hand, reviewing new messages from Alexandra. She'd emailed scanned documents. More bank transactions linking Rose to shady individuals. Each piece felt like a puzzle tile revealing a monstrous picture. He typed a quick note back. This is huge. Thank you. Let's forward it to Reyes. Almost immediately she replied, Done. Stay safe, Harvey. A pang of gratitude warmed him. Without her collaboration, he'd be far more vulnerable. We're allies in betrayal, he thought, ironically. A week passed. Then, too, Camille's legal team tried pressuring the court to grant her unsupervised visits, but Ms. Waverly fought back with the audio evidence. The judge remained unconvinced of Camille's innocence, so visits, if any, would be in a social worker's presence, at a neutral facility. Camille balked, sending tearful messages to Harvey. I can't believe you'd reduce me to this. He ignored them. News from the detective. Still no sign of Clyde or Rose. The arrest warrants stood. A few leads suggested they might have fled to a remote property in the Florida Keys or possibly left the state. But none panned out. That sense of incomplete justice gnawed at Harvey daily. Then, out of nowhere, a break. Early one morning, Reyes called with a note of excitement. "Harvey, we got a tip from a fisherman. He claims he saw Clyde on a private boat near Key West, brandishing a weapon at someone. The Coast Guard is searching. Rose might be with him." Harvey's heart pounded. "Finally," Reyes cautioned, "we can't confirm. The fisherman's description matched Clyde's photo, but it's not 100%. If it's them, they're heading deeper into the Keys, could be trying to reach open water, or lying low on some private island. If we pin down coordinates, we might corner them." Harvey hung up, adrenaline pumping. This could be it. If the authorities caught Clyde, they'd unravel the murder plot fully, press charges for Lloyd's death and the conspiracy. Rose's capture might follow, sealing their fate. He rushed to share the news with Ms. Waverly, who was cautiously optimistic. "If they arrest Clyde soon, your divorce case and the custody arrangement become ironclad." He nodded. "I just want closure for Lloyd, for my kids. They deserve to see justice served." But a flicker of fear lingered. Cornered and desperate, Clyde might lash out violently. Rose, too, was cunning. "I have to be ready for anything," he thought. They're not above hurting innocents. Part of him dreaded that final showdown. Chapter 8. Days turned into a tense vigil. The Coast Guard intensified their search in the Florida Keys, aided by local law enforcement. Detective Reyes kept Harvey updated sporadically. Each phone call ignited both hope and dread. The children sensed something big was happening. Harvey tried to shield them, but Jacob, ever observant, asked, "Dad, is Uncle Clyde in trouble?" Harvey hesitated, ruffling Jacob's hair. "He might be, but don't worry, we're safe. Let's focus on your homework, okay?" The boy nodded, though curiosity lingered. Meanwhile, Camille remained in the city, abiding by the court's restrictions, her phone calls to Harvey reduced to short messages about wanting to see the kids. "Miss," Waverly advised, ignoring personal pleas. "She's trying emotional manipulation," the lawyer said. "Focus on legal channels only." Harvey agreed, though a pang of regret flickered for the sake of his children's heartbreak. He firmly believed they needed distance from their mother's toxic involvement. One humid afternoon, Alexandra invited Harvey to join her for coffee near the detective's precinct. She had new documents from her PI bank statements revealing Rose transferred $500,000 to an obscure account the day before Lloyd died. Coupled with Clyde's gambling debts, it painted a stark motive. They needed Lloyd out of the picture to maintain their schemes. Over lattes in a corner booth, Alexandra slid the pages across the table. "I'm no financial genius, but this looks like hush money or a bribe, possibly paying off the hitmen who sabotaged Lloyd's breaks." Harvey studied the figures, fury churning. "It's consistent with murder for hire. We'll get them." "Thank you." He looked up, meeting her gaze. "You've helped me so much, She gave a sad smile. "We're both victims of Clyde's betrayal. Remember? This is as much for me as it is for you. My divorce from that bastard is nearly final, but I want real justice." He reached out, giving her hand a brief squeeze. "We'll get it." Suddenly, Harvey's phone rang. Detective Reyes. He put it on speaker so Alexandra could hear. Reyes's tone was urgent. "Harvey, big development. Coast Guard spotted a private yacht off an uninhabited key. They suspect it's Clyde's. They see at least 2 figures on board, possibly armed." Harvey's pulse raced. "So they're cornered?" "We hope so," Reyes replied. "We're sending in a tactical team. If we catch them, you'll likely be asked to confirm some details. Be ready for a call. Harvey exhaled. I'm ready. Reyes paused. Also, preliminary ballistic checks confirm the gun used in a prior assault belongs to an associate of Clyde's. We suspect he's armed and dangerous. Just keep your guard up in case he slips away. Harvey nodded, feeling Alexandra tense beside him. Thanks for letting me know. Good luck. The rest of that day was an exercise in raw nerves. Harvey tried to occupy the children, help with homework, watch a cartoon, cook a simple pasta dinner. Yet every time his phone buzzed, adrenaline spiked. Ms. Waverly texted him updates about the legal front, but no mention of Clyde's arrest yet. Finally, near dusk, Reyes called again, breathless. We engaged the yacht. Shots fired. Clyde's men tried to flee in a smaller boat. The Coast Guard managed to disable it. We have Clyde in custody, along with an older woman, Rose Dawson. They surrendered after a brief standoff. Harvey's head swam. They're captured? He locked eyes with Alexandra, who had just arrived to drop off more documents. Her eyebrows shot up in question. He mouthed, They got them. Yes, Reyes confirmed. We're bringing them to Key West for processing. Then they'll be transferred to Orlando for formal charges. If all goes well, we'll have them indicted for Lloyd's murder, conspiracy, and more. Relief, fury, heartbreak. Harvey felt them all at once. Thank you, Detective. This is huge. Brace yourself, Reyes added. They might claim innocence or spin a story blaming each other, or even blaming Camille. Stay strong. We'll want your official statement again. Of course, Harvey said, voice hoarse. I'll do whatever it takes to see them prosecuted. That night, after tucking the children into bed, Harvey retreated to the condo's tiny balcony, phone in hand. Alexandra joined him, leaning against the rail. The city lights glimmered across the horizon. They have them, Harvey breathed, still reeling. Clyde and Rose, it's almost over. Alexandra's eyes teared up. Thank God, the man who ruined both our lives finally facing justice. And your mother, too. He bowed his head, wrestling with conflicting emotions. Rose was still his mother, after all, the woman who gave birth to him, who shaped his childhood, now unmasked as a cold conspirator. I wonder if she regrets any of it, he muttered bitterly, or if she'll stand by her actions to the end. Alexandra placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. Either way, she's out of your life, right? She chose this path. I'm sorry you lost your father in the process. Harvey nodded, tears burning his eyes. Me too. But I'll honor him by making sure they pay. No deals, no hush money. The next morning, Detective Reyes phoned with fresh updates. They're transporting Clyde and Rose to Orlando in 2 days for an arraignment. Prosecutors want you there to see if any new information surfaces. Also, we might call you as a witness if bail is contested. Harvey agreed. I'll be there. He hung up, adrenaline surging. The long-awaited confrontation loomed, a court proceeding where Clyde, Rose, and likely Camille might appear, their entire conspiracy laid bare. He felt a wave of both dread and satisfaction. Before then, he had to prepare the kids. He wouldn't bring them to the arraignment, of course, but they deserved an explanation that Grandma Rose is in big trouble. He dreaded that talk. They've lost so many illusions. 2 days later, the arraignment day arrived. Ms. Waverly accompanied Harvey to the courthouse. He wore a dark suit, carrying a folder of documents in case the DA needed references. The corridors buzzed with reporters. Some had sniffed out the sensational story. Wealthy matriarch Rose Dawson, her shady older son Clyde, both accused of orchestrating Lloyd Dawson's murder. Harvey slipped past cameras, ignoring shouted questions. Mr. Dawson, are you testifying against your mother? Is it true your half-brother had an affair with your wife? He set his jaw, pressing through. Inside, the tension was thick. He spotted Camille in a corner, flanked by her lawyer. She looked worn, pale, eyes downcast. He refused to meet her gaze. Clyde appeared first, escorted by deputies in cuffs, wearing a prison jumpsuit, his once smug face now etched with anger and fatigue. He cast a venomous glare at Harvey, lips curling in a silent snarl. Harvey returned a steely stare, refusing to be intimidated. Then came Rose, also in cuffs, hair disheveled, a defiant tilt to her chin. She caught sight of Harvey, her own son, watching. For an instant, her eyes flashed with something akin to regret, or maybe just cold fury. She quickly turned away. The judge called the case, reading out the charges: conspiracy to commit murder, murder in the first degree, attempted blackmail, financial crimes. The list rattled on. Clyde stood rigid. Rose glared. Their public defender tried to plead for bail, insisting there was insufficient proof they posed a flight risk. The DA countered with accounts of how they were literally apprehended at sea, armed, fleeing. The judge's eyes narrowed. Bail denied. At that declaration, a swirl of emotion coursed through Harvey. Clyde roared, "This is insane! We were just boating! My mother and I had no reason to run!" Rose yanked at her cuffs, shouting, "Lies! All lies!" The bailiff stepped in, subduing them as the judge hammered the gavel for order. Harvey's heart pounded. This spectacle, Clyde ranting, Rose shrieking, mirrored how thoroughly their once-polished facade had cracked. Meanwhile, the DA revealed part of the recorded evidence, mentioning Clyde's taped confession about Lloyd's death. The courtroom gasped. Reporters scribbled frantically. Camille, from her seat, looked on with horror covering her mouth. She might have realized the extent of the damning evidence. She shot a pleading glance at Harvey, who ignored it. By the hearing's end, Clyde and Rose were led away in shackles, still protesting. The judge set a date for the formal indictment. Harvey barely registered the flurry of reporters shouting questions. Ms. Waverly's hand on his shoulder guided him out. Outside, the midday sun felt blinding. Harvey stopped on the courthouse steps, inhaling deep gulps of air. So many onlookers stared, some recognized him from local news. He ducked his head, determined to keep the children out of this media frenzy. Suddenly, Camille approached, tears glistening. Her lawyer hung back. "Harvey," she whispered, voice cracking, "I had no idea Clyde would do all that. Believe me, I'm innocent. I never planned any murder. Please, you have to believe me." He studied her haggard face. "I heard you on tape, Camille. You never lifted a finger to stop them. You never warned me about my father's danger. You let it happen." She choked on sobs. "I was terrified. They threatened me, threatened the kids. Maybe I was weak, but I'm not a killer, Harvey. Don't let them ruin my life completely." A surge of rage flared. "You chose your side. Now face the fallout. Maybe if you turn state's witness, the DA will go easier on you. But as for me, our marriage is over." Her tears spilled, voice trembling. "I love those kids. Don't take them away forever. I'll do anything." He hardened his tone, ignoring the pang in his chest. "Then tell the DA everything. Confess it all. That's your only chance at a sliver of mercy." She staggered back, covering her face, the press snapping photos. Ms. Waverly gently escorted Harvey away, whispering, "Well said." This might push her to cooperate. Back at the condo that evening, Harvey faced the children with a bittersweet heart. The news was ablaze with headlines. Socialite Rose Dawson and son arrested in alleged murder conspiracy. Prominent family's dark secrets exposed. He turned off the TV quickly, not wanting them to catch glimpses of their grandmother and uncle in handcuffs. Jacob peered up, curiosity shining. "Dad, is Grandma in trouble?" Harvey knelt, hugging him gently. "She made bad choices, bud. We're going to be okay, though. I promise. Emily clung to his arm. Will Mom go to jail too? He swallowed. I don't know yet. She has to face the law like everyone else. They nodded, eyes wide with worry. Harvey soothed them, promising a better future once everything was sorted. Inside, he felt the weight of their shattered innocence, but stood firm. We will rebuild a life free from all this poison. When they finally slept, Harvey stepped onto the balcony, exhaustion gripping him. A text arrived from Alexandra. They indicted Clyde and Rose. No bail. I feel so relieved. I hope you do too. He typed back. It's a huge step. Thank you, truly. Let's see what happens next. Staring at the night sky, he let himself breathe. Clyde and Rose were behind bars. Camille cornered by the legal system. The children safe with him. Part of the war was won. Yet deeper trials lay ahead, court battles, sentencing, final closure. He closed his eyes, remembering Lloyd's gentle voice. We did it, Dad. The path of vengeance had been cruel, but at least justice now seemed inevitable. Chapter 9. Just days after Clyde and Rose were hauled away in cuffs at the Key West Marina, the media exploded with sensational reports. Local Florida news channels and even a few national outlets ran segments titled Dawson Family Murder Conspiracy, accompanied by images of Rose in shackles, Clyde's furious sneer, and Lloyd's memorial portrait. Many headlines highlighted the scathing truth. The murder of Lloyd Dawson was no tragic accident, but a scheme orchestrated by his own wife and stepson. Harvey tried to shield his children from the worst of the media frenzy. Staying at the cramped Orlando condo, he kept the TV off whenever they were around, diverted their attention with backyard play dates or quiet board games. However, he couldn't fully avoid the chatter neighbors sometimes recognized him, offering pitying or curious looks. Tabloid reporters occasionally lurked, hoping for a quote. Night after night, Harvey fielded phone calls from the detective, Reyes, the district attorney's office, and his own attorney, Ms. Waverly. The wheels of justice were turning fast. Rose and Clyde faced multiple felony charges, from first-degree murder to conspiracy and fraud. Meanwhile, Camille lingered in limbo, an accessory or conspirator, possibly indicted soon depending on how much the DA believed she actively participated. One morning, Harvey's phone rang, Ms. Waverly, speaking in a measured tone. Camille's lawyer reached out. They're floating the idea that Camille might accept a plea, turning state's witness against Rose and Clyde. They're trying to reduce her own culpability. How do you feel about that? Harvey leaned against the kitchen counter, letting out a slow breath. He glanced at his children, busy coloring at the table. If it helps convict Rose and Clyde for murder, I'm all for it. But I don't want Camille walking free as if she did nothing wrong. Ms. Waverly acknowledged the dilemma. She'll likely face some penalty, maybe lesser charges, probation, or a short sentence. It depends on how strongly she can link Clyde and Rose to the brake tampering. The DA wants every nail in the coffin they can get. Harvey's chest tightened with conflicting emotions. Anger that Camille might get off lightly. Relief that her testimony could seal Rose's fate. Let her talk, he said finally. As long as the children are safe with me and she's restricted from hurting them further. Waverly agreed. Then we'll see if she can produce truly incriminating details like a confession from Clyde or direct instructions from Rose. The DA will weigh that heavily. As days passed, Harvey balanced fatherhood responsibilities, early morning school drop-offs, bedtime routines, comforting nightmares brought on by the swirling chaos. The kids missed their mother and grandparents in a childlike, innocent way. Harvey answered them gently. Grandma and Uncle Clyde did bad things. They're in jail. Mom's sorting out her mistakes. He tried not to let bitterness color his tone. In the evenings, he pored over documents with Ms. Waverly, preparing for the upcoming preliminary hearings. Both Clyde and Rose had pleaded not guilty, claiming fabrication and false evidence. The DA had lined up a parade of expert witnesses, forensic accountants to detail the money trail, mechanics to verify the brake tampering, and soon Camille might appear as a witness for the prosecution. Alexandra remained a steadfast ally. Once Clyde was arrested, her own divorce from him fast-tracked. She dropped by occasionally with groceries or takeout meals, helping Harvey maintain stability. Their friendship deepened, forged by mutual betrayal and the shared goal of justice. Some nights, when the kids slept, they'd talk quietly about the future Harvey, hoping to build a new home away from the memories. Alexandra plotting her new life, once free of Clyde's name. At last, the preliminary hearing for Rose and Clyde arrived. The prosecution aimed to demonstrate sufficient evidence to hold them for trial on murder charges. The courtroom brimmed with reporters, lawyers, and a scattering of curious onlookers. Harvey sat in the gallery, Ms. Waverly at his side. Rose and Clyde appeared, each with their own defense counsel. Clyde sneered at the onlookers, while Rose maintained a frosty poise. The DA introduced evidence. The taped confession of Clyde referencing Lloyd's problem and how they handled him. The forensic details, the suspicious bank transfers. Rose's lawyer objected vigorously, calling it circumstantial, but the judge permitted it to stand. Then came the moment that turned the courtroom into a silent hush. Camille was called to the stand. Dressed in conservative attire, hair pulled back, she looked pale, hands trembling. She avoided meeting Harvey's eyes, focusing on the DA's questions. In a voice shaking with emotion, she recounted her knowledge, how Clyde boasted about tampering with Lloyd's car, how Rose insisted it was necessary to protect the family's reputation, how Camille felt threatened if she revealed anything. She wept, claiming she was terrified, and thus kept silent. Clyde, from the defense table, erupted. "Liar, you were all in on it!" The bailiff admonished him to stay quiet. Rose shot Camille a glare that could melt steel. Camille flinched but continued, describing the night she realized Lloyd had been killed, how Rose calmly told her to keep Harvey busy. Harvey listened, heart pounding. He believed some details were exaggerated, painting Camille as more of a victim than she truly was. But the raw admissions about Rose's direct involvement were chilling and damning. Midway through Camille's testimony, Rose lost her composure. She surged to her feet, pointing at Camille. "You mindless little slut! You bedded my son, you relished it. Don't pretend you were forced." A shocked murmur swept the courtroom. The judge banged the gavel, threatening to hold Rose in contempt. Clyde tried to restrain Rose, but she yanked free, continuing to hurl insults. "You're betraying us now, you ungrateful wretch. You should pay for this." A bailiff hurried over, physically guiding Rose back to her seat. The judge ordered a brief recess to restore order. Harvey exchanged a tense glance with Ms. Waverly, adrenaline coursing. This meltdown only incriminates Rose further, he thought grimly. When the court reconvened, Camille finished her testimony with a shaky, tearful account of how she realized she'd become complicit, how fear and lust for Clyde overshadowed her moral sense, how Rose's constant manipulations twisted her actions. The DA rested their case for the hearing, confident they'd established probable cause. The judge, in sober tones, commended the prosecution for compelling evidence. She set the trial date, denying bail again for Rose and Clyde, given the seriousness of the charges and their prior attempt to flee by yacht. Harvey felt a surge of relief. They remain locked up, no chance to sabotage or harm us further. The swirl of cameras outside the courtroom confirmed the public appetite for this salacious family drama. Ms. Waverly guided Harvey out a side exit, while Rose's muffled curses echoed through the halls. Once outside, Harvey noticed Camille slumped against a hallway bench, tears on her cheeks. Her lawyer patted her back. Harvey paused, uncertain if he should speak to her. Finally, he approached warily. She looked up, voice trembling. "I told the truth, Harvey, at least everything I knew. Will that help?" He studied her, memory of her betrayal fresh. "It'll help put Rose and Clyde away. You might get a lesser charge, maybe probation. That's between you and the DA. She swallowed hard, gaze drifting. "What about us?" He shook his head, tears burning behind his eyes. "There is no us." "We're done." She bowed her head, lips quivering. "I deserve that. But please, don't keep the kids from me forever. I'll do whatever the court decides." Harvey's jaw tightened. "Then prove you've changed. Cooperate fully. Stay out of trouble. Maybe, in time, the kids can see you under decent circumstances, but I'll never trust you again." A wretched sob escaped her. He turned and walked away, Ms. Waverly gently ushering him out of the courthouse. The next few weeks saw an uptick in legal motions. Rose's defense tried claiming mental instability, while Clyde's defense pinned everything on Rose and Camille. The DA methodically dismantled these strategies, armed with taped confessions, phone records, forensic accounts, and now Camille's sworn testimony. Harvey prepared for the possibility of testifying himself, recounting how he discovered the affair, how Lloyd tried warning him, then wound up dead. Ms. Waverly lined up character witnesses from Harvey's business circle to attest to his stable, ethical nature, contrary to any attempt by the defense to cast him as a paranoid or abusive spouse. Meanwhile, he maintained a stable routine for the children. He found a small rental house with a modest yard, letting them see a glimpse of normalcy bike rides, a friendly dog from next door. They asked about Mommy, and he said she was dealing with big problems. He allowed them short supervised phone calls with Camille, as mandated by the court's bridging plan. It wasn't ideal, but he refused to sabotage the children's emotional well-being. One morning, a certified letter arrived from Lloyd's longtime financial advisor. Inside, it revealed that Lloyd had updated his will mere weeks before his death, an update that left nearly all of his personal assets, including some significant property stakes, to Harvey. He also included a note about a trust fund for the grandchildren. A mix of gratitude and sorrow swept over Harvey. Lloyd must have sensed the looming threat, he thought. This infusion of resources provided extra security for Harvey and the kids. He decided to invest part of it in their future education, therapy, a comfortable home. Reading Lloyd's final note, which said, "Son, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Remember, build something beautiful with your life," brought tears. He vowed to honor that wish. Ultimately, the court scheduled Rose and Clyde's joint trial for murder, conspiracy, and related charges. Camille, now an official cooperating witness, faced a separate hearing for her lesser charges accessory after the fact, conspiracy to conceal evidence. She'd likely serve some time or endure probation, depending on how fully she assisted the DA. With the trial date looming, Harvey sensed the final chapter approaching. He steeled himself for the emotional toll of testifying, confronting Rose in open court, seeing Clyde forced to face the weight of Lloyd's murder. The children's custody arrangement seemed locked in his favor, but he wouldn't truly rest until the entire vile conspiracy was laid to rest. Standing on his new rental's porch at dusk, he stared at the setting sun. Memories of Lloyd's warm smile flooded his mind. "We're nearly there, Dad," he thought. "They'll pay. We'll be free." Chapter 10. The day of the Dawson murder trial dawned with a swirl of media frenzy. News vans lined the street outside the courthouse, cameras aimed at the steps, Inside, the gallery filled with reporters, curious locals, and a few bloggers eager for lurid details of a wealthy family's downfall. Harvey arrived in a sober black suit, accompanied by Ms. Waverly. His children were safely at school, under the watch of a trusted babysitter. The last thing he wanted was to subject them to more trauma. Seated at the prosecution's side, he watched as Clyde and Rose were led in hands cuffed, wearing standard-issue jumpsuits. Clyde glowered at the gallery, while Rose held her head high in icy defiance. Two separate defense teams stood at their backs, ready to argue they were victims of circumstance. The judge, a stern-looking man with silver hair, called the court to order, and the trial began. The DA's opening statement recounted the twisted scenario. Lloyd's suspicious death by brake tampering, a conspiracy by Rose and Clyde to hide gambling debts and control the family fortune, an adulterous affair with the victim's wife, Camille, used to manipulate Harvey. Audible gasps rippled among spectators at the mention of these salacious details. For days, the prosecution methodically introduced evidence. First came the forensics team verifying the brake line's clean cut, then phone records mapping Clyde's presence near Lloyd's route that night. Financial experts took the stand, detailing how Rose's shell corporations funneled money to Clyde to cover massive gambling debts, linking it to Lloyd's refusal to sign certain estate documents. Camille reappeared on the witness stand, this time under the full glare of a high-profile trial. With trembling lips, she recounted how Rose told her, "We have ways to deal with Lloyd," if he wouldn't cooperate. She admitted her affair with Clyde, how they both belittled Harvey behind his back. She insisted that while she never participated in the brake tampering, she knew something was wrong and stayed silent out of fear. Clyde's defense attorney tried to shred her credibility, calling her a scorned lover using Clyde as a scapegoat. Camille wavered, tears flowing, but the prosecution pointed to the damning audio of Clyde bragging about controlling Harvey, referencing Lloyd's removal. The defense floundered, struggling to explain away Clyde's own recorded words. On the 8th day of the trial, the DA called Harvey to the stand. Adrenaline coursed through him as he took the oath. Ms. Waverly offered an encouraging nod from the front row. The children, fortunately, were nowhere near the courtroom. The DA guided Harvey through his recollection of events, discovering hints of Camille's affair at the Key Largo resort, Lloyd's cryptic warnings about Rose's manipulations, Lloyd's sudden death, and the subsequent unraveling of the conspiracy. Harvey's voice caught when describing the heartbreak of losing his father. He recounted how Lloyd had approached him secretly, fearful of Rose's power. He shared the moment he learned of Lloyd's accident and how a detective soon confirmed it was murder. Tears threatened to choke him, but he pressed on, determined. The DA then asked about the hidden camera footage. Harvey calmly described installing cameras after suspecting the affair, capturing Clyde's confession that, "We handled Lloyd." The judge allowed the relevant audio clip to be replayed for the jury, Clyde's voice practically sneering, referencing keeping Harvey clueless. A hush blanketed the courtroom. Clyde's defense attorney, a slick man named Sorensen, tried to undermine Harvey's testimony. "Isn't it true," he drawled, "that you invaded your wife's privacy with illegal surveillance? That you harbor a vendetta against Clyde and Rose because you disliked your half-brother's relationship with your mother?" Harvey kept his composure. "I installed cameras in my own home. I had every right to confirm my suspicions of adultery and conspiracy. And as for disliking Clyde, he conspired to murder my father. That's more than a personality clash." Sorensen pressed on, insinuating Harvey might have tampered with evidence or staged the audio. Ms. Waverly objected vigorously, the judge sustaining the objection, warning the defense not to speculate without basis. Finally, Sorensen tried a last gambit. You blame Clyde for your father's death, but do you have any proof Rose orchestrated it beyond mere phone calls? Harvey's jaw tightened. Yes, phone calls, money transfers, and the testimony of Camille, who heard Rose discussing it. I trust the jury can see the pattern. Sorensen sneered. But the point was made. Harvey's calm responses scored well with the jury. Throughout Harvey's testimony, Rose glared at him with an unsettling mix of hatred and wounded pride. At times, she whispered to her lawyer, possibly feeding him lines of rebuttal, but the jury couldn't ignore the mountain of evidence, and every so often, Rose's composure cracked a flash of fury or a bitter scoff, revealing her contempt for her own son. During a recess, as Harvey passed by the defense table, Rose hissed under her breath, "Traitor!" He felt a chill. Traitor to what? Her twisted empire? He refused to acknowledge her, stepping quickly away, heart pounding. Late in the trial, the DA introduced a surprise witness, Alexandra. She strode to the stand, head high, poised. The defense objected, "Relevance?" But the DA argued she had information about Clyde's gambling ties, adding weight to his motive. The judge allowed it. Alexandra, voice steady, recounted how she discovered Clyde's crippling debts, how she suspected him of forging signatures on financial documents, and how she'd hired a PI who photographed him meeting Camille before the family gathering in Key Largo. She verified the timeline that Clyde planned the resort trip early, laying the groundwork for controlling Harvey's finances if needed. The defense tried, claiming her testimony was revenge from a bitter ex-wife. She refused to waver, calmly citing bank statements, lending the prosecution's argument that Clyde's desperate need for money fueled the murder. The jury seemed transfixed. Harvey observed from the gallery, relief mingling with gratitude. Alexandra had come through yet again, unearthing crucial details that pinned Clyde down. By the trial's final days, Clyde's and Rose's defense teams scrambled. They argued Rose was an elderly woman manipulated by her stepson, while Clyde insisted, "Rose had total control. I just followed orders." This contradictory blame game amused the DA, who pointed out how perfect it was that they each tried to scapegoat the other. The prosecution hammered home that both reaped the benefits of Lloyd's death, both took steps to hide it, both threatened or bribed Camille into silence. Camille's partial plea deal hung in the air. She'd get a reduced sentence for conspiracy charges in exchange for testifying truthfully. The jury saw how her admissions matched the financial and forensic evidence. It was hard to deny the synergy of all these pieces. At last, the DA delivered a searing closing argument, highlighting how Rose had orchestrated everything from bank transfers to using Clyde's gambling debts as leverage, ensuring he carried out the lethal act on Lloyd's car. Clyde, fueled by his arrogance and desperation, did the dirty work. Camille's misguided complicity merely underscored how deep the manipulations went. The DA ended with a heartfelt tribute to Lloyd, reminding the jury that a father, husband, and friend was coldly murdered by his closest kin for profit and power. Rose's attorney tried painting her as a misunderstood matriarch who only sought to protect her family's legacy, while Clyde's attorney insisted Clyde was a pawn in Rose's grand scheme. But these defenses rang hollow compared to the weight of evidence. The jury deliberated for 2 tense days. Harvey barely slept, pacing the condo, ignoring the press's speculations. The children picked up on his anxiety, so he hid away in the bedroom to spare them. Ms. Waverly texted updates from the courthouse. The jury asked for certain tapes replayed, evidence re-examined. Finally, the call came. The jury reached a verdict. Harvey rushed to the courthouse, heart pounding. The gallery was packed. Clyde and Rose stood at the defense table, eyes flickering with fear or fury. The judge asked the jury foreman to announce the verdict. Clyde Dawson, Guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, additional financial fraud. Rose Dawson. Guilty on murder, conspiracy, and complicity in financial crimes. Gasps echoed. Clyde cursed under his breath while Rose's face twisted into a mask of rage. The judge thanked the jury. The DA moved swiftly to deny any bail or leniency, citing the gravity of the crime. The judge agreed, scheduling a separate sentencing hearing. But the outcome was clear. Both faced life sentences, possibly more if the judge showed no mercy. Harvey felt his knees weaken, a flood of relief and grief. Justice for Lloyd at last. Meanwhile, reporters clamored, cameras flashed, capturing Rose's venomous glare at her son, Clyde's hollow stare, and Harvey's trembling posture of grim satisfaction. After the verdict, the courthouse halls buzzed with emotion. Harvey emerged to a barrage of microphones. He offered a brief statement. "I'm grateful for justice for my father. I ask for privacy for my family as we heal." Then Ms. Waverly guided him away, ignoring follow-up questions. Camille lingered in a corner, tears on her cheeks. She approached, voice shaky. "I'm relieved they're convicted, but I'm scared of my own sentencing." Harvey nodded curtly. "You told the truth on the stand. The DA might recommend leniency. That's between you and them." She sniffled, glancing at him hopefully. "Does this change anything with us?" He exhaled. "No. The damage is done. We'll finalize the divorce. You'll have limited visitation with the kids if you comply with every requirement." Her tears renewed, but she mustered a faint nod. I understand. I'm sorry." He walked away, hardly hearing her whispered apologies. She had chosen Clyde, chosen to keep silent in the face of murder. No going back. Chapter 11. A month passed, the fallout from the high-profile trial rippling through the community. The judge prepared sentencing for Clyde and Rose. Meanwhile, Camille awaited her own hearing. She pled guilty to accessory after the fact and conspiracy to conceal evidence in exchange for the prosecution dropping the more severe charges. She faced possible jail time but hoped her cooperation on the stand would yield leniency. On sentencing day for Camille, Harvey sat in the gallery. The children were safely at school. Camille, in a modest suit, rose before the judge, trembling as the DA outlined her role. She withheld information, aided in hiding certain documents, and only came forward after confrontation. Camille's attorney emphasized her fear, her manipulation by Rose, and her eventual confession that helped secure convictions. The judge, stoic, delivered a measured sentence, 5 years in prison with eligibility for parole in 2. She also lost custody rights, retaining only supervised visitation upon release. Camille sobbed, turning toward Harvey, but he stared impassively. Inside, he felt a trace of pity, but reaffirmed that the children deserved better. Days later, Clyde and Rose faced their official sentencing. The gallery was half filled with reporters again. The judge recounted the monstrous betrayal of murdering Lloyd for greed and power, the extensive conspiracy to manipulate Harvey, the attempted flight at sea. He called it one of the most cold-blooded familial crimes I've ever presided over. Clyde received life in prison without possibility of parole, plus additional years for financial crimes. Rose, similarly, was sentenced to life, the judge explicitly stating her singular callousness overshadowed typical maternal instincts, making her a grave danger to society. Both stared straight ahead, faces hollow. Clyde's bravado gone, replaced by a stony resignation. Rose's veneer of aristocratic poise cracked, revealing bitter defeat. She refused to look at Harvey while the bailiff led them away. Harvey exhaled, tears burning. He realized with finality, this was his mother, condemned to spend her remaining years in prison. A sense of tragedy mingled with grim justice. She had murdered Lloyd, threatened her own son, and reaped the consequences. Exiting the courthouse for what he hoped was the last time in this nightmare, Harvey felt the Florida sunshine on his face. A sudden weight lifted. He spotted Ms. Waverly and Alexandra waiting at the foot of the steps, each wearing relieved smiles. He embraced Ms. Waverly briefly. "Thank you for everything." She gave a warm nod. "You've been strong, Harvey. I hope you find peace now." Alexandra approached, eyes shining with tears. "We did it. Clyde can't hurt anyone else. Rose is done." He hugged her gently. "Couldn't have done it without you," he murmured. "We both lost so much, but at least justice was served." She pulled back, a faint smile. "Yes. Now we rebuild, right?" He managed a smile of his own. "Right." With the trials over, Harvey focused on giving his children a stable life. He sold the old suburban house where so many painful memories lingered. The insurance payout plus Lloyd's bequest allowed him to purchase a new home modest but with a spacious backyard near good schools. He decorated it with bright colors, playful furniture. The kids each got to pick paint for their bedrooms. Emily chose lavender. Jacob chose bold orange. At nights, sometimes nightmares revisited Harvey. Visions of Lloyd's car plunging off a road, or of Rose's sneering face. But each morning, the sight of his children's cheerful chatter reminded him he'd broken free. Per the court's directive, Camille was allowed short, supervised visits at a designated family center before she began her sentence. Harvey prepared the kids gently. "Mom made mistakes, but she's still your mom. You can talk to her in a safe place." He accompanied them to the center, handing them off to a social worker who watched as Camille tearfully hugged them. The children were confused but glad to see her. Harvey observed from behind a glass partition, arms folded, wrestling with conflicting emotions. He saw Camille's genuine regret as she read them a story, tried to laugh with them. Then she glimpsed Harvey and mouthed, "Thank you." He nodded stoically. "Let her find redemption if she can," he thought, "but the kids will remain with me." As the dust settled, Harvey found unexpected solace in his growing friendship with Alexandra, their mutual experiences. Clyde's betrayal, the shock of murder, bonded them. They met often for coffee, discussing practicalities like legal wrap-ups, also venturing into personal talk, hobbies, childhood memories, hopes for the future. One evening, after the children were asleep, Alexandra joined Harvey for a quiet dinner at his new home. They ate takeout on the patio, cicadas humming in the warm Florida night. The conversation meandered from trivial jokes to heartfelt confessions about their bruised hearts. Eventually, Alexandra admitted, "I was so resentful of Clyde for eroding my faith in people, but helping you fight for justice showed me not everyone's like him." Harvey offered a small, honest smile. "Same here. I used to think family ties were everything, but my own mother and half-brother proved otherwise. You helped me see I can trust again." They clinked glasses of iced tea in a silent toast, a soft spark lingering between them. Neither rushed romance. They were still healing. But in that quiet moment, a gentle warmth hinted at possibilities. Harvey decided to hold a private memorial for Lloyd, inviting a few close friends who truly cared for him. In a small chapel, they shared stories about Lloyd's kindness, his supportive nature, his quiet humor. Harvey spoke last, voice trembling as he recounted how Lloyd tried to protect him from Rose's schemes, how he died a hero in Harvey's eyes. Afterward, they released paper lanterns into the evening sky. Jacob and Emily, each holding a lantern, watched with wide eyes as they floated up, glowing against the darkness. Harvey murmured, "This is for Grandpa Lloyd. He's watching over us now." The children nodded, solemn and awestruck. A wave of bittersweet catharsis flowed over Harvey. He felt Lloyd's spirit in the warm night breeze, and he whispered silently, "We're safe now, Dad. You didn't die in vain." A few weeks after her sentencing, Camille began her prison term, 5 years, possibly shorter if she earned parole. Before she reported in, she had one final supervised visit with the children. Harvey stood by, watching as she tearfully said goodbye, promising she'd get better and see them again someday. The kids wept, confused. Harvey tried to comfort them afterward, explaining that Mom needed to learn from her mistakes. Meanwhile, the court scheduled a future hearing for potential parole options. Ms. Waverly cautioned that if Camille behaved well and the DA supported it, she might re-enter the kids' lives sooner. Harvey accepted that if she truly reformed, partial redemption might be possible, but trust would remain distant. The final settlement of Lloyd's estate transferred a significant portion of assets to Harvey. Some smaller bequests went to charitable funds Lloyd admired. Not a dime went to Rose or Clyde. The courts nullified any claims they had, citing them as murderers of the decedent. Harvey used part of his inheritance to expand his architectural business, launching a foundation in Lloyd's name to help underprivileged families obtain quality housing. The project felt like a tribute to Lloyd's quiet generosity, a positive legacy born from tragedy. Months rolled on. Harvey's new routine solidified. He spent mornings dropping the kids at school, managed his blossoming architecture firm by day, and returned home to tuck them in with bedtime stories at night. Therapy sessions helped the children process the loss of their mother's presence. Emily drew pictures of a bright house under a sunny sky, where Daddy is happy. Jacob bravely told his classmates, "My dad takes care of us now." Whenever the shadows of the past threatened to resurface, Rose's cold sneer, Clyde's mocking grin, Lloyd's final phone calls, Harvey reminded himself that justice prevailed. Rose and Clyde rotted in prison for life, Camille served her time, and the children had a stable father who'd sacrifice anything for their well-being. Now, as he stood on the back porch one warm evening, gazing at the stars, the phone buzzed with a friendly text from Alexandra. "Saw your new design, featured in an architecture blog. Congrats! Let's celebrate soon?" A small smile tugged at his lips. "Yes, let's," he replied. The swirl of betrayal that once threatened to crush him had transformed into a resolve that shaped the rest of his life. He was no longer a victim, no longer haunted. Surrounded by his children's laughter and the unspoken promise of new beginnings, Harvey was free, finally free to build a future untainted by the darkest of betrayals. Chapter 12. Some time had passed since the dramatic trial and its aftermath. Harvey, now in his mid-30s, found himself standing in front of a construction site, a charity project financed by Lloyd's Memorial Foundation. The sunlit sign read, "Building Homes, Building Hope, in honor of Lloyd Dawson." Volunteers in hard hats bustled around, laying foundations for modest homes designated for families in need. He felt a swell of pride. This was more than just architecture, it was a living tribute to his father's memory. He snapped a photo, planning to show the kids how Grandpa Lloyd's generosity kept helping people. That sentiment overshadowed the painful knowledge of who had stolen Lloyd from them. In the distance, an assistant approached. "Mr. Dawson, we need your input on the layout changes." Harvey smiled, stepping into his role as a successful architect and philanthropist. The new life he'd carved out felt purposeful, a stark contrast to the turmoil of the past. Though the trial ended, the divorce with Camille underwent final bureaucratic steps. Ms. Waverly notified Harvey that the judge signed off on the dissolution with prejudice, meaning Camille couldn't contest the property division or custody arrangement. Camille was already behind bars, so her presence wasn't needed at the final hearing. Harvey felt a wave of closure when Ms. Waverly handed him the official decree. He flipped through the pages, each line severing the last legal ties to a marriage that devolved into betrayal. At the bottom was the judge's signature. Harvey exhaled. "I'm free." The emotional weight lingered, but at least legally it was done. A few tabloid updates trickled out regarding Rose and Clyde's life in prison. Rumors suggested Rose held court among older inmates, using her cunning to manipulate relationships, while Clyde, initially arrogant, found himself in frequent conflicts behind bars. None of it particularly surprised Harvey. Detective Reyes had quipped that Clyde's ego doesn't mesh well with prison life. Occasionally, a journalist emailed or called, fishing for comments about how Harvey felt, whether he pitied them. He always declined to speak, wanting no part in fueling more sensational headlines. "They made their bed," he told Ms. Waverly privately. "Let them live with it behind concrete walls." 2 years into her 5-year sentence, Camille came up for a parole hearing. The DA reached out to Harvey, explaining that her cooperation had proven invaluable. They asked if Harvey wished to oppose or support her early release. Legally, he had standing as Lloyd's family, though Camille was an accessory, not the principal murderer. Harvey wrestled with complicated emotions. A part of him still loathed what Camille had done, but she'd helped convict Rose and Clyde, saving the children from a deeper conspiracy. Finally, he told the DA he wouldn't oppose parole, trusting the system to evaluate her sincerity. He demanded, however, that any release come with strict conditions: no unsupervised contact with the kids until a family court review, mandatory therapy, and 0 association with Rose or Clyde's associates. Camille eventually earned parole, contingent on abiding by those conditions. Harvey explained to the kids that Mom might be out soon, but she's working on fixing her mistakes. The children, older and more aware now, had mixed feelings. Still, they seemed stable in Harvey's care, uncertain how to feel about seeing her again someday. Weeks after her parole, Camille requested a private meeting with Harvey at a supervised facility. She claimed she wanted to apologize and discuss a gradual path to partial visitation. Ms. Waverly cautioned him, but he decided to go if only to close the emotional loop. He found Camille in a modest visitor's room, dressed in simple clothes, hair shorter, face lined with regret. She stood as he entered, wringing her hands. "Harvey, thank you for coming." He sat, arms folded. "Say what you need to say." Her eyes brimmed with tears. "I know words can't undo the pain I caused. I ruined our marriage, stood by while Lloyd was murdered. I hate who I became, but I'm trying to change. I want the kids to have a mother who's not toxic." He studied her, searching for sincerity. "You'll have to prove it over time. I won't let them get hurt again." She nodded quickly. "I understand. I'll do therapy, abide by every rule the court sets. Just please believe I'm sorry." A silence stretched. He softened slightly, recalling the naive, sweet woman he once fell for. "I believe you regret it, but trust is dead between us. The children come first." A tear rolled down her cheek. "I accept that. Thank you for hearing me out." Harvey's architectural firm thrived, thanks to positive publicity around his philanthropic projects and the sympathy people felt for his tragic family saga. He poured his creativity into designing sustainable, community-focused buildings. On each new blueprint, he wrote a small dedication. "In memory of Lloyd Dawson, love triumphs over betrayal." Gradually, he built a reputation as not just a skilled architect, but a man who overcame adversity with integrity. Clients admired his resilience. Staff found him a fair boss. Some philanthropic donors wanted to partner with his foundation, expanding the Building Homes, Building Hope initiative across Florida. Throughout this rebirth, Alexandra remained a close friend, a confidant. She finalized her own divorce from Clyde, adopting her maiden name. Freed from the fiasco, she rebuilt her consulting career, exploring personal ventures that no longer revolved around covering Clyde's debts. Sporadic dinners, coffee runs, text updates turned into deeper companionship. One evening, after the children were asleep, they found themselves leaning on Harvey's living room couch, exhausted from a weekend volunteer build. A cozy hush fell, then Alexandra softly admitted she felt something more than friendship growing, but worried about crossing lines so soon after tragedy. Harvey's heart fluttered. He too felt a quiet closeness. They'd shared vulnerability, supported each other through the worst. "I feel it too," he confessed. "But we can move at our own pace. No rush, no pressure." She smiled, relief in her eyes. They sealed the moment with a tender embrace, a step toward the future neither had expected after so much betrayal. Jacob and Emily, now a couple years older, gradually shed the shadows of the traumatic events. Therapy sessions helped them articulate their confusion, losing Grandpa Lloyd, seeing Uncle Clyde on the news, hearing about Mommy's mistakes. Harvey took them camping on weekends, taught Jacob basic woodcraft, let Emily explore painting nature scenes. The carefree joy in their laughter told him they were healing. Sometimes they asked about Grandma Rose. Harvey gently explained she did terrible things, hurtful things, and was serving time. They asked fewer and fewer questions as time went on, seemingly content with the supportive family environment Harvey created. 2 years after Rose's life sentence began, Harvey received a letter from her. She wrote from prison, scrawling in an uncharacteristically shaky hand. "Harvey, I request you visit me. We need to talk about your father's estate, your future, and how you judged me. Rose." He almost tore it up, but curiosity plus a desire for final closure nudged him. Ms. Waverly and Detective Reyes both warned him to approach with caution, but it was his choice. Ultimately, he decided to go alone to see if she'd show any remorse. The prison visitation room was stark, gray walls echoing footsteps. Rose appeared, older, dignity eroded by harsh prison life. She still carried a haughty tilt of her chin. She sat, shackled, across a metal table. "Son," she began, voice low. He stared, emotions swirling. "Mother, you wanted this meeting?" She sniffed. "Yes. I've had time to reflect. I raised you, provided for you. I never expected you'd side with that pathetic father of yours over me. We could have ruled everything." Her tone was tinged with resentment, not apology. His stomach twisted. "You murdered Dad. You threatened me, tried to manipulate me. You call that love?" She shrugged. "Lloyd was weak, dragging us down. I did what was needed. You should have seen the big picture." Fury flared in him, but he kept calm. "You're still unrepentant, even now?" She sneered. "Your father was an obstacle. If you'd joined me and Clyde, you'd have everything. But you betrayed us." She spat the word like venom. He rose, disgust roiling. "Then there's nothing left to say." She glared, silent. Without a backward glance, he left. Outside, breathing the free air, he felt closure. She was irredeemable, locked in her twisted worldview, caged forever. He'd never again be ensnared by her manipulations. Time flowed on. Harvey's architecture firm expanded across the state, employing a skilled team. The Building Homes, Building Hope Foundation oversaw multiple developments for low-income families. Jacob and Emily thrived in school, forging friendships, playing sports or music. Harvey, once haunted by heartbreak, now found his nights filled with paternal joy and a blossoming relationship with Alexandra slow, steady, genuine. Eventually, on a warm Florida evening under a canopy of stars, Harvey and Alexandra shared a quiet moment on his back porch, a glass of lemonade each in hand. The kids slept soundly inside, their vibrant artwork pinned across the living room walls. Alexandra admitted a desire to travel abroad, maybe see Europe's architectural wonders. Harvey mused about how fun it'd be to take the kids on an educational trip someday. They laughed, imagining building a future free of scandal and tragedy, simply living as a loving, supportive family. Harvey gazed at her, softly saying, "Never thought I'd feel this kind of peace again." She smiled, gently lacing her fingers in his. "You earned it. We both did." The cicadas hummed, a warm breeze rustled the palm trees, and in that simple moment, life felt full of promise. Betrayal no longer defined him. He was Harvey Dawson, father, architect, survivor. Lloyd's memory guided him to create beauty in the world, to cherish the love he found in fatherhood and a second chance at companionship.